It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Mary Jo Foley's here. There is so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. The new Intel ads mocking Macintosh. A new Windows 10 test build is out. And then, I'm excited to say, our former host from This Week in Computer Hardware, Ryan Shrout, and Josh Newman will be here from Intel to talk about the latest Intel laptops and the Intel Evo platform. Big show for you next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 716, recorded Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. Draining the slides. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Worldwide Technology and Dell Technologies. WWT's Advanced Technology Center is a virtual testing and research lab with the best engineers in the industry. WWT's ATC provides customers with unbiased results so they know they're making the right technology decisions for their organization. To learn more and see what the ATC can do for you, go to wwt.com/twit. And by Conga. Experience Conga's new brand and have some fun. By testing your trivia knowledge, they'll be donating to a charity that supports COVID relief efforts when you go to conga.com/twit today. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest from Microsoft with Mary Jo Foley of ZDNet, all about Microsoft.com. Good morning, Mary Jo. On Zoom today.
What?
That's Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. The skeptical.
Wait.
Paul the
What's
skeptical.
happening?
Yeah, we're moving to Zoom. Remember we went through the OBS Ninja phase. That was a massive flop.
I'm still on OBS Ninja. When were you going to tell me?
You know, we wanted you to do your own show just by yourself.
Right now we only have one Zoom account. We're going to get a few more.
I see.
I think we're gonna just settle on Zoom. Look at the difference between you and Mary Jo. Look how good Mary Jo looks.
I'm not comfortable with that comparison for one thing. I don't know why this has to be about looks.
Uh-oh, pinch him. Go ahead, reach over and pinch him.
I'm going to tell you the same thing I said to people when I used to go to the Celtics games and I wasn't wearing a green shirt. They should give me a green shirt. I have season tickets. In this case, I am half Irish. I don't have anything to prove. This is not a real holiday. I'm Irish every day.
Well, the good news is the Windows Weekly colors are green.
That's right.
So you're kind of covered.
Well, I have a little bit of like yellow skin, so I'm getting there.
Yeah, greenish.
A little jaundice.
Greenish.
A little of the Galway jaundice.
We were green with envy because we saw your Instagram where you got an inoculation for some plague.
Well, it turns out we
virus.
all got inoculated.
But then Mary Jo confessed. She fessed up. Yeah, I got mine a couple of weeks ago. And I got mine this morning.
Nice.
So we're all halfway to heaven.
If you had told me, and think about this seriously, 1 year ago, right? We're still operating under the pretext that maybe this will be a couple of weeks, a month or something.
Right. Easter. It's all going to be better by
time.
Easter. It's going to be over
and you
by
said,
Easter.
hey, guess what? 1 year from now.
We didn't know that
get
he
your
meant
first
Easter
vaccination for this.
2021.
Yeah. My first question would be like, that's awful. What happens in the next year? And they'd be like, don't even.
Don't even. It's really true. Literally, today is the 1 year anniversary of California's full lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So exactly, I remember because it was St. Patrick's Day. Exactly 1 year later.
And by the way, we should be clear, in the United States at least, only, I think it's still under 25%.
Yeah, but it's going fast now
so far.
Although,
yes, it is absolutely
starting to
escalating.
get faster.
And I kind of thought it might be like this, train leaving the station where it's really slow at first. Chug, chug, and it slowly builds up. And I think the
little engine that could.
Yes. I think I can. Hey, this is a big show today. We got Intel coming on later, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
I hope they bring Justin Long.
Yes, can you believe that? The I'm a Mac guy is now I'm a PC. Well, he's I'm an Intel.
I think we should play one of these ads at least.
Okay.
They're pretty good.
Okay.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would get mad at me for playing one of their ads. Now, this is for Intel, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 5 of them. I don't think it matters which one you play.
Do you care?
They're all good.
Okay, here we go. This is number 1. I figure start a novel at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Justin. Just a real person doing a real comparison between Mac and PC. Come on. These are all PCs?
Traitor!
Intel. Nice. Whoa, my face just unlocked that. That's so cool. And I've never seen a screen like this before on a laptop. Wow. And let's see over here. So these are the newer Macs?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
gray and grayer.
Gray and grayer. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, so the videos, one of them talks about multi-touch displays. One of them is about the versatility of like 2-in-1s. We
Let's
can
watch
switch
one
between a
more.
laptop
What do you
and a
say?
tablet.
One more.
Hello, I'm Justin. Just a real person doing a real comparison between Mac and PC. Come on. Okay, PC. Oh, cool. This whole thing's a touchscreen. And there's another one too. Wow. All right, and now for Mac. Let's see. Oh, you've got a little bar here. Little baby one.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, where's the mute button?
Here's what I found on how to cook mutton.
Oh, no, I don't want to cook mutton. What even is mutton?
Okay, that's very funny. How to
So
cook
good.
mutton. Okay. Yeah, it's a stroke of genius to hire Justin Long, the I'm a Mac guy.
I agree.
Because I think he's pretty well recognized for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't Apple hire the other guy, that PC
Yeah,
guy?
John Goodman.
Yeah, John Hodgman ended up
John
doing,
Hodgman.
was
Goodman,
at the
yeah.
Apple keynote.
Hodgman.
So they've
Right.
Yeah,
They
swapped.
switched.
switched roles.
Yeah.
Except Hodgman still was playing a PC.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was out
Well,
of breath.
the world has been adjusted properly. Everyone's
Isn't that
using a PC
funny?
now.
That just cracks me up. That's just hysterical. Okay. I'm not going to play all 5 of them.
No, but the other one,
get
you played
get
2,
the
right?
gist,
So
yeah.
there's one, like I said, one about 2-in-1s, which is laptop to tablet in a single device. There's one about gaming, and then the final one is about multi-monitor support.
How to, and which one's about how to cook mutton? No, those
That's
are,
kind
you
of
know
my favorite one because the Siri thing is like something
so
we can all
funny.
relate to. Even like sitting here doing a podcast, I'll sometimes say something and my phone will be like,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
And
I didn't
unless you
understand that.
reconfigure your touch bar, that Siri is right where the backspace key is. So you're going to hit that every single time, all the time.
Yeah.
They actually, whoever did that ad obviously uses a Mac because they knew exactly what the pain point was for a Macintosh. And you know what?
That's what we call an uppercut.
No one will deny that the best thing about the PC universe is its ecosystem, is the variety of hardware.
The choice.
you
The
get,
versatility,
the choice.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Apple's one company, and they're very opinionated. They make this thing.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Some people want someone who they believe to be smarter than them to make decisions for them, and that's
Right.
cool. And I there's a whole God. If you ever read like Medium is like this whole world of people debating still the M1. That the M1 is like more locked down than the old Macs, and I can't go in that direction and blah blah blah. Whatever. I mean, I think we all understand what the Apple ecosystem is. Some people just kind of embrace that. They want stuff that works, and I get it. Mary Jo will definitely fall into that camp at some point in her life. And then,
if they only had Notepad, she'd be happy.
I don't know,
She'd
guys.
move over.
I think
immediately.
the day that Mary Jo appears in an Apple ad will be a sad day for us all.
Oh God.
That'll mean it's over. It'll mean everybody should go Linux. That's what it'll mean.
She's going to be talking about grepping stuff on the command line, and
I'll be like, awk, get it?
Well, before the Intel guys come on, because they're coming on,
Yeah.
just Ryan
Yeah.
Shrout, and who's the other guy? Did we ever
the
figure
other
that out?
guy is
No, we still don't know.
Josh Newman.
Josh, poor Josh. I'm sorry,
Josh
Josh.
Newman, the actual executive from Intel. Yeah,
The
but
actual boss. But before we get them on, I do want to say, I was waiting for a Mac Pro, thinking, I can't wait till get this whatever the higher end M1 chip. Already the entry level is pretty impressive.
Yep.
and I was going to get, the Mac Pro because I wanted to have a really nice monitor. And I just gave up. I don't know why, but something hit me. Something hit me. And I said, wait a minute.
Another game in town? Is that what
There's another game in town. What the hell am I waiting for? So I got me an Alienware Aurora R10, which is the one with the Ryzen chip in it. Because I felt like I really ought to try these. You feel the same way, right, Paul? I mean, that everybody's talking about this chip. We got to take a look at it. Right?
I'd like to get like a NUC style device with a Ryzen in it.
Well, this is not like a NUC. In fact, it looks like a Dyson fan.
Oh no, I'm sure it's the exact.
And it
opposite.
sounds a lot louder. But I'm gonna put it under my desk, so it'll be NUC-like. Sure. And it's got the 5800X, which is kind of a high-end Ryzen, and it's also got a NVIDIA 3080.
How many cores are in this thing? This
eight core, 36 meg cache.
Well.
So it should be a nice little
thing.
Well, and then I decided the whole point of this was because I have an iMac at home. I have an iMac Pro, which is now, by the way, Justine just tweeted, my M1 laptop is faster editing 8K video than my iMac Pro, and I'm like face palm because that was a really expensive computer. So anyway, I thought. Plus, this way I can game. I want to see the ray tracing. Honestly, I want to see the ray tracing on the 3080. That's what I really am interested in.
Yep. What are you going to play?
Unreal 5. There's a I don't know.
Animal Crossing.
No. I'm going to play. You laugh, but in a way, I'm going to play Animal Crossing for grown-ups.
Are you really?
Yeah, because there's a game. It's a brand new. And by the way, one of the reasons I'm looking at it, it does support ray tracing, but also supports Linux. So if I wanted to put Linux on this, I know, don't hit me. I could, but it's like build a world thing. What's it called? Valheim. You ever heard of that? Just came out.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Valheim. But it's kind of like Minecraft, only with ray tracing and Vikings and things.
And Vikings.
Actually, there's a Minecraft. There's a ray tracing update for Minecraft.
There is, but it's it's a mod, it's a hack. This is how they describe it. Valheim is a brutal exploration and survival game for 1 to 10 players, set in a procedurally generated purgatory inspired by Viking culture.
Yes, just like the last year was a procedurally generated purgatory.
It's our life. It's our lives. So, and then I really went crazy.
Oh man,
Alienware also makes a 50,
you got COVID from someone
50,
at the gym.
Not 15, 50-inch OLED display. So I'm going to be immersed in this Viking.
You're going to be like that guy in the Memorex ad that's like slowly being blown back from the screen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought, so it's not going to come for ages. In fact, the main reason that I did this is because there's no way you can get a 3080 or even this new Ryzen. So I figured if I get it from Dell, they can get the parts. They can get in line, and I'll get it in May, they say. So.
May. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
I know.
Hey, at least
you
I'll
have to wait 2 months to get a PC.
You know what? I'm
going to
Mac
send
guy.
someone on a boat over to Asia to tell them you need it, and then they're going to come back and explain which parts aren't there.
It took me 16 months to get my car. I mean, this is my life.
Yeah, but that's the first one they've ever made. I mean, that's like brand new.
True.
Like,
well, but so is this. This is a new Ryzen chip.
Yeah.
It's hard to get, I understand, video cards. So we'll see. I'll be playing Valheim.
That's why you need an Evo PC, Leo. There's graphics right on the chip.
Yeah. This also has 128 gigs of RAM, but you know what I'm now worried about?
I'm sorry, did you say 12.8 gigs of RAM?
128. I don't know what. It was the SKU. That's the SKU. You click that, it turns into 100. I don't know why. But I might call them. You know why, Paul? Because lately I've been thinking ECC. I shouldn't even try it with regular RAM. I know it's not as fast. See, it's a gaming PC. They're never going to put ECC in there.
Right.
But I think I want ACC for reliability. What do you think? Crazy?
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
Can't obviously. I don't know. How much slower is it?
It's I don't know. It's one of those things where gamers say, "Oh, I'd never put ECC in," but it
but
might
yours
be like
is so
1%.
stupid fast anyway. It might not matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to worry. The other reason I wanted a lot of RAM is probably I'll be running a lot of VMs, virtual machines.
That's the classic excuse. You don't have to tell us why. You saw the 3-digit number and you're like, "This is what I'm getting."
Sounds like a lot of RAM. Well, my iMac Pro is 64
I want 128.
gigs, so I don't know. It was like I think it was coming out of quarantine. It was like I just went, bleh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I celebrated with a hamburger at a casino, but yeah, similar.
Yeah, a lot cheaper to buy the hamburger. I can tell you that.
Well, it was at a
Slots
casino. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so according to our chat room, who have Googled it, 2% slower, which is.
Oh, I wouldn't worry about that at all.
I wonder if I can call Dell. They haven't built it yet. I wonder if I can call them.
And ECC must stand for like error correcting.
Error correcting. So this is the big thing now. People are talking about this. Linus Torvalds said, blame Intel because we should all be using ECC RAM right now. But PC makers wanted to make inexpensive things. But he said, but it's error prone.
Yeah.
I know because I see it. It's error. You're going to have many, many more errors. All the high-end business servers and PCs all have ECC, but none of the.
I'm so glad that Linus Torvalds is getting older because he's going to just rant
he's
more and
getting
more.
cranky, isn't he?
He is. He is.
Anyway, so I just thought I'd tell you I'm joining the dark side after
the elite ranks of the.
Justin Long convinced me. I ought to have a PC. What am I, crazy? Notice, by the way, all he talked about was laptops.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, that's pretty much the market.
Well, Intel just released new desktop processors, right? Are we going to talk about that
That's
with
true.
the guys?
Yeah, if you want to. I mean,
Well, what are we going to talk to them about?
No, yeah, let's wait. Let's wait on the Intel stuff.
Okay.
no, hold on a second. I mean, I don't think that they're not on here to talk about 11th gen core desktop.
They're talking about
Well,
Evo, right?
well.
They're talking about Evo versus M1
Right.
and really the points of those videos. The thing that I linked to in my article about the ads is they have a page up on their site finally where they kind of lay out each of the benefits that they believe that like an Intel Evo system has over M1. So there's it's all pretty real world. I mean, I think we can all agree that over time things are going to change. But the thing we don't know about, and I don't expect them to discuss, is how Intel will also be changing its platforms going forward as well, right? So I think we all expect to see some ARM style, core jiggering where some of them are high performance and some are high efficiency and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure there's going to be future stages to these debates, but this is just about where we're at now.
Did you see there's some Intel event on March 23rd now?
Isn't that the day that Apple's going to have its event?
I think so, right? I know.
Maybe not. We haven't received invitations yet. But.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it just is kind of vague, like about the next wave of innovation, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, interesting.
Intel's really taking this M1 seriously, aren't they?
It's like we've said on the show, I'm so refreshed to see this because it's been too long since they fought back. It's been way too long.
Well, I mean, Apple has gotten such an incredible news cycle boost out of this thing, and and it's not like Intel is kind of they're up. They're like, look, this thing it is good, but the thing I appreciated when I first talked to them, I'm sure we'll get to this when we do talk to these guys today, is just like I'm completely on the same page with them on this whole comparison, because what Apple did with the M1 is great for the Mac, but I don't really feel it changes the equation for the PC industry. I mean, we have different concerns, and of course, Windows has, for better or worse, big issues with backward compatibility that's super important to the ecosystem, and that's one of the reasons why the ARM stuff hasn't really taken off on this side yet. So whatever, but I don't think we're gonna. it's like this changes everything. And it's like, yeah, for the Mac. I mean, but I don't know.
Yeah. If it makes Intel a little more aggressive and a little more hungry, I like it.
Right. Intel is to hardware what Microsoft long was to software, which is they need that person pushing or that company pushing them.
Totally.
Microsoft tried to push them in this direction toward, ultra mobility and all that kind of stuff in the early days of Windows 10, and it didn't really get anywhere. And that was why Terry Myerson linked up with Qualcomm. It's like and as he said, just pointedly, it's like, I don't really care which one of these companies survives or succeeds. I just want this change to happen. And Microsoft would be just as happy for Intel to run away with it as long as they, adapted the platform, for those workloads. So.
By the way, I've started testing the ThinkPad X1 Nano, which is an Evo.
I'm so jealous. Ooh, how do you
what
like
is
it?
the chipset in the Nano?
i5.
Yeah. Oh, so it's an Intel.
Yeah. It is screaming fast.
Wow.
And so far, battery life is really, really good. And it's so thin and so light. Okay. Pretty interesting.
This is semi-unrelated, but I just reviewed an HP Elite book, and I'm just about to review another HP Elite book. The first one, it's hard to test battery life in this world we live in now, at least for me.
I know.
And I'm increasingly not sure that my results are meaningful, but I was kind of disappointed by the battery life of the first one, the one that I've already reviewed, the 840. But I'm reviewing an X30 1040 right now, which is kind of like the sequel to my favorite HP laptop of all time. And this thing, it's getting like over 12 hours of battery life. And I'm like, like really consistently. And I'm like, this is kind of interesting. So we'll see where it lands, by the time I'm done. But it's weird even between two fairly similar PCs. I mean, it has a larger battery actually, but it's interesting how different it is.
I know. I thought that HP one you gave me, the Elite book that has the AMD chip in it, was really light until I lifted this one up and I'm like, oh, man.
I mean,
it's because one is made out of metal. HP's is made out of some kind of metal, right? And the ThinkPad one is carbon fiber or something.
Yeah, they use a really nice material.
So much lighter.
So that Dragonfly is, remember the blue Dragonfly laptop was that same material, right? It saves weight for sure. Yeah,
it does. Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm very jealous. If I hadn't just spent considerably more money than I planned on this, I might have.
What was that? About $1,100, maybe 12?
No, a little more than that. I think the RAM was $1,100.
Yeah.
No, I know. This ThinkPad isn't cheap either, like you guys pointed out. I think it starts at like $1,700, right? It starts at $1,700.
Yeah. It's so weird with Lenovo because their list prices are meaningless. Yeah, because nobody ever pays that.
Right.
They have a sale every single day.
Yeah.
Literally on every single product. Like
that's good marketing.
I don't know if it's random or whatever, but it's it's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Do you want to talk about the Ryzen Pro 5000 before Ryan gets here?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, it's I think most people are kind of familiar with the last two generations of Ryzen chips. It's probably obvious there are mobile versions and desktop versions and so forth. The Ryzen Pro is, the way I see it is, it's kind of like the Intel V Pro stuff. So it's aimed for business class PCs. It's going to be going out to PC makers like Lenovo and HP who serve that market. And it has built-in management and security capabilities at the firmware level. And like I said, I think it's basically the Ryzen V Pro, so the 11th generation core desktop processor from Intel, and then the Ryzen Pro 5000 probably couldn't be any more different, and still be the same sort of general kind of thing. The Intel chips are still in a 14 nanometer process, which is crazy. I assume Ryzen Pro is at least 7, if not smaller. I assume it's 7 nanometer, but different use cases for sure.
Yeah. Let's again. We've got in about I'd say about half an hour. We're going to be joined by the Intel crew and talk about Intel's new graphics on motherboard graphics, the Evo graphics. So we'll get to that in a bit. But I'm going to do some Windows stuff before they get here. You were writing up a new build when we joined you, Paul, earlier. Tell me all about it.
Well, Mary Jo's already written it up.
Mary Jo's way ahead of you.
I can tell you something. I can tell you something about it.
5 a.m. Yeah.
No, so the most interesting thing about this new dev channel test build that just came out right before the show.
Mary Jo, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes.
The most interesting thing, really?
Yeah. Yep.
You're going to lead with.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Notepad. Yeah, I am. No, I'm going to broaden it a bit and say Microsoft's making changes to the inbox apps with Windows 10 as of this build. One of those inbox apps is Notepad. I'll just throw them into the mix.
What?
But also Windows Terminal. Windows Terminal is one of them, and Power Automate Desktop. So here's the plus side on what they're doing with Notepad. Notepad is going to have its new rightful place on the start menu, and they're promoting it out of the Windows accessories folder. Okay, that's good. But on the not so good side, they've changed the icon to be one of these fluent things that makes it look like a trash can, basically, and not a notepad. It does. And then they also are warning us that they are going to be making updates to Notepad through the Microsoft Store. We kind of knew this might happen, but it is going to happen now, which means it's going to be updated more frequently than the operating system itself. So why is this a problem? If you like new features, it's great. If you like Notepad the way it is, not that great. Right?
So I'm not going to defend the new icon because I agree it's ugly. But on the other hand, the existing icon for Notepad literally dates back to Windows Vista, right? It's the glass.
But there's some nostalgia. Come on, it looks like a notepad.
Yeah. Well, I would also say, I feel like every other feature they announce is actually a bigger deal than the Notepad thing.
It is. It is.
You personally.
No, I know. No, so like Windows Terminal now becomes an inbox app. That's a big deal, right?
Yep.
That's a very big deal. Updates for Windows Terminal continue to go through the Microsoft Store. And then Power Automate Desktop, which is that robotic process automation thing, something to help users do repetitive tasks more easily, is also going to become an inbox app, which is interesting. And it'll be in the Windows
power user tools, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic.
No, that is. And then they've also, in this build 21337, they're enabling testers to start customizing virtual desktops. So you can customize the background and you can actually reorder your virtual desktops. Also very nice, right? Mm-hmm. There's a gaming feature in here I don't really understand. Preview of auto HDR gaming, whatever that is. Something.
Okay. So on the Xbox Series X and S, Microsoft has a feature called Auto HDR that adds HDR to games that were created before there was HDR, right?
Okay.
And when they announced this, of course, a lot of people were like, this seems like the type of thing they could add on the PC, and sure enough, here they are. So what they're saying is that you will get HDR visuals on over 1,000 DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 games. Mm-hmm. So yeah, awesome.
Yep.
It will just make them look better, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. Anything else in here?
Yeah. So the biggest one to me is the File Explorer thing, right?
What, that they added more padding to it?
Yeah. So, but why is that a big deal, right? It sounds like it's nothing. They've added a compact mode that is designed for better consistency with what they describe as modern XML. I'm sorry, not XML, XAML experiences, right? In other words, apps created with UWP or in the future Project Reunion or Maui, right? Mm-hmm. The reason I find that interesting is the understanding of we've been working on this preconception, I guess I'll call it, that File Explorer was going to be replaced, that there was going to be a modern replacement for File Explorer.
Sure.
But and we see one in Windows 10X. It's terrible. Mm-hmm. So this suggests to me that maybe they're not getting rid of this thing, that they're going to just improve it. Like Notepad is not what we would call like a feature dense app, but it is a desktop app. So now it's in the store and now it's getting updated that way, whatever. But And Windows Terminal, I'm sure, I don't actually know, but I assume I shouldn't say that, but I assume that's a
update through the
desktop
store.
app. But it's going through the store,
Yep.
I mean, File Explorer is absolutely a desktop app, and there's no store component to it. But I mean, the fact that they're trying to make this thing look more normal or more like the modern apps that it's going to be next to, I think is interesting.
So, this is going to open a whole can of worms when I bring this up. But
Okay.
I'm wondering more and more lately, as Windows goes forward, if there aren't going to be two parallel things that are both Windows, right? There's going to be something that is more 10X like. So there'll be 10X, but then regular Windows 10 that'll have a lot of 10X elements in it too. But then I just feel like they're going to keep an enterprise client of Windows 10 almost like pristine, right? Like they're going to keep all the power features the way they are now for the businesses that don't want this new modern look and feel stuff, who just want power tools, right? And it makes me wonder, right, how are the SKUs going to look though as we go forward? And you know what gave me this clue? When Microsoft talked at Ignite about the next long-term servicing channel build of Windows 10, they didn't call it 21H2. They didn't call it that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so why aren't they calling it that? And maybe it's because it's its own thing, right?
This build has, there's only really kind of 6 features they announced or whatever, but 3 or 4 of them hint at what you're describing, right?
They do,
the very
right?
fact that they're adding Windows Terminal and Power Automate to Windows is amazing.
It is.
I think you and I discussed this, or it came up
We talked
recently.
about it last week, this Power Automate.
Yeah.
The Miguel de Casa had responded to someone on Twitter, and he said, there's a lot you have to deal with when you get caught up in the Windows release cycle, and of course, with the store, there's kind of a way around that, right? Windows Terminal can be updated more than twice a year, right? Obviously, because it's being updated through the store. But anyway, these are power user features. Notepad is, it's not a power user feature, but it is kind of a legacy desktop app. People like you and I use it. I'm sure a lot of kids are like, I don't understand why this thing is even there. Blah blah blah, whatever. But this is Microsoft. I mean, this is how they handle things. They're never going to take this thing away.
No, and it is a power feature for developers. Like there are still a lot of developers who use it, and they might also use VS Code or whatever, but they still use Notepad, right?
Or even the virtual desktop improvements. Virtual desktops are probably not going to be a key user scenario of Windows 10X, right? This is a much simpler, mobile-like operating system. And I guess we think about things like Sun Valley, and there's a lot of questions like, well, are they going to literally creep into the system and look at every control panel, every MMC, every legacy desktop app, and bring them forward with a fresh new look and feel? And you don't have to pay that much attention to the history of Microsoft to know that's never going to happen. And
it shouldn't. It shouldn't happen. It won't, right?
But you leave it there for the people that need it, right?
Yeah.
And that's Windows. And I think Windows 10X is that other new thing, that lighter, smaller, more mobile. And it improves over time. But I think you're right. I mean, this is maybe parallel to the Windows 3X, 9X stuff versus Windows NT in the 1990s. We had these two similar things evolving next to each other.
Right. And we still kind of at least I do in my own mind, sometimes conflate dev builds with that's the next version of Windows, but that isn't actually what a dev build is, right? Here's a whole ton of new features, and some might be in this and some might be in that. So just because something's in a dev build doesn't mean it's in 21H2 or not in 21H2, right?
That's true. Yeah, but it's more likely that it would be, and there's no real room for them to make these changes before then now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, a lot of this stuff could, over time, as 21H1 occurs, maybe some of these features slip into the beta channel.
Right.
Which will become H2 or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I don't see it as a negative that they keep a version of Windows out there that is like classic Windows, because that's what
for a long time to come, it's going to be the one that almost everyone wants.
I know. Yeah. So yeah. I guess it wasn't a can of worms. I was like, oh, wait till I say this. This is going to be terrible.
No, I think you're right. I mean, you can't replace a battleship with a Prius or whatever. I mean, Windows 10X is far too simplified. It's not anywhere close to being where it needs to be for the vast majority of people who run Windows today.
Right.
To use it. So, yeah. I mean,
and also, I feel like it gives them a chance to do something I think they should have done a long time ago, which is have a version of Windows that's particularly focused for businesses and then have a different set of features and look and feel for consumers. And they always say, no, it should just be one thing.
I have thought this for years. Yeah, as long as the apps run on both, why?
Yeah.
You know, there's a built. You kind of mentioned this earlier. There's kind of a built-in feature set that maybe businesses need, and there's a different set maybe for consumers, and there's no reason they couldn't look completely different.
Right.
They wouldn't look
still
completely
be both
different.
Windows, right?
Well, they could even have themes where one is on by default on home and one is on by default in business or whatever the things are called. And yeah, I mean, I've thought that for years and years. Plus, Microsoft learned, there's all these things in life where it sounds reasonable, and we just assume it's a fact. Like 25 years ago, Microsoft started making all the Office apps have the same toolbars because that would, if you were a Word guy, and that means you could use Excel more easily. But as it turns out, A, that's not true, and B, people can adapt, and people expect apps that do completely different things to look and behave differently. It's fine.
Yep.
So I think people could, if they had to, use some version of Windows at work and come home and use some different thing, As long as it ran the same apps, who cares?
I don't know. I think people like the familiarity of the UI and don't want.
Well, but that's fine too, because like I said, it could be you can have a theme. Like if you consider yourself the professional guy,
I guess
you could turn that on. It's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
And
like, why does Windows 10? Well, I was going to say, why does Windows 10 Home have to look like Windows 10 Enterprise?
And people are used to using a phone, which has a completely different interface.
Yeah.
And then
we move between these things all day long. It's no problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I stand sometimes in front of the refrigerator and wonder how I can get ice out of that hole in the wall. But, usually you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway. Anything else about Windows you want to talk about?
But with that version, no.
No. How about
But we should talk about the store for business.
Yeah, the end of the store for business and education.
It's the end of the store.
So, what year was it? I'm like, what century was it? 2019. I wrote a story saying Microsoft was going to discontinue the Windows Store for Business and the Windows Store for Education. And everybody went crazy because it hadn't been announced by Microsoft, and Microsoft wouldn't comment. They said, we're not saying anything. We're telling everyone, keep using the Store for Business and the Store for Education to distribute your apps. Well, Friday, Microsoft secretly put a little update into Docs, Microsoft Docs, saying that customers will no longer be able to have, how did it go? Tell them all paid apps will no longer be available for acquisition. That was their wording, from the stores for business and education. So if you're somebody who's in business or education and you've used a store to buy paid apps, after April 14th, you can't do that anymore. You can't get those apps through those stores anymore. So my question to Microsoft was, okay, so you're finally admitting you're doing away with these stores, that you're going to discontinue them or drop them at some point. Nope, they still won't say that. All they'll say is, we just added some wording to the Docs site to tell people they can't get the paid apps there anymore after April 14th. So I don't know why they don't want to say this. Maybe plans have changed since the pandemic and they're going to keep the stores open for some specific reasons, like for app management by businesses and education. I'm not sure. But I feel like they need to come clean at this point about what is going on with those stores, right? Originally, when I had the tip on this, it was because of all the disarray with UWP and Win32. And Microsoft was trying to figure out, like, do we even need these specialized stores if UWP apps aren't, just a thing that has to exclusively go through a store? Because they've broadened how you can get apps now since those days.
Right.
Originally, the stores were supposed to be the special way you could curate a set of UWP apps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And now that's not the case anymore. So these stores they still make some sense in terms of the management experience, but they don't make sense in terms of being the exclusive channel for UWP apps. But yeah, if you're someone who uses these stores, you should go check out Microsoft Docs and see what they have said at this point. They won't say any more. I've tried to browbeat them, should I say, into saying more. In a friendly way, right. Tried to get them to say more, but no. Originally, before the pandemic, I heard the cutoff date for these stores was June 2020. And obviously that date has come and gone, but the pandemic's pushed a lot of things back. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if the plan is still to get rid of these stores or to change them in some way. I can't get any further information at this point. There you have it.
Sorry, I passed out from the side effects of that vaccine. I'll be right. I'll be with you in a moment. No. Did you guys get any side effects out of curiosity?
My arm was very
from
sore on day 2, but that's it.
Yeah, so far. I just thought it's a brave thing of me to come in and do the shows after getting that vaccine. I hope you appreciate it.
You are a hero. And
I'm a hero.
Somebody asked me on Twitter if I had any side effects, and I said, yeah, happiness.
Joy. Unmitigated joy.
Yeah.
Did you, while I was out, did you talk about the Windows Community Toolkit?
No, and I just mentioned this because I enjoy the developer topics, and it's interesting because this thing is, I believe, is starting to evolve alongside with UWP. So this is the 7th version of the Windows Community Toolkit, which Microsoft describes as a collection of helpers, extensions, and custom controls for Windows desktop developers. To date, it has focused solely on universal Windows platform apps, or had originally, and of course now that's evolving, and so this is evolving with it. They support .NET apps, I believe. There's some .NET standard work in here. But if you're a developer, the cool thing is they actually have like a sample app. It's like a playground app, and it basically just shows you every single thing that's in there, right? So it's like a way to kind of go like, oh, that's cool. I'd like that effect, in my own app. But this was a place where you could go in the early days to see like acrylic or whatever and kind of fool around with some new controls and effects and so forth. So if you are a desktop Windows developer, and God love you if you are, this is definitely something you want to check out. This is the biggest news of the day.
I
can't
think
believe,
so.
By the way,
a lot of people.
We forgot to discuss this last week.
A lot of
did.
people emailed, tweeted, mentioned in the Twit community this whole thing we had about the fact that our settings page looked different and then changed, and so you got the straight scoop.
Yep. Here's a statement from a Microsoft spokesperson about this.
Wow.
And the short.
Thank you, Mary Jo. You went
I know.
all the way. That's good.
I did. I'm like, let's get an official statement about what is going on. Right. So the short version of the answer is.
Should we explain before you say that what happened, which is.
Yeah, we should.
On the settings, the control panel, I was getting different information than Paul was. And then, Paul, yours changed, right?
It changed on the show.
In the middle of the
show. By the way, during the show, or right after the show, it changed again. There are, by my count, now 4 different things you could see in the settings app in the main view.
That's so weird.
I know.
The good news is that won't always be the case.
It's a bug.
It's a bug.
It's a bug, yeah.
Right. Here's what they said. We're slowly rolling out the settings UI with customer profile photos, like you saw, Leo, to consumers.
Yeah.
And customers who use business SKUs or who have other indicators of business, like Azure Active Directory state, will have a different experience. So you'll probably see the one I saw, the traditional classic kind of look without your profile picture. And then they said there's a bug related to identifying what the device is being used for, and it is affecting the settings UI for some customers.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
Okay. So this is good for me because I don't have to have like a 30-page discussion in the book about the 4 things you can see here.
You're never going to see it again. Yeah.
At some point, you're going to install an update, probably reboot your computer, and when you launch settings, instead of the thing that Mary Jo sees, you're going to see something with a header, and we'll have your user photo, your account, And then it will have like a let's get started button or whatever it says. And that will open a full screen UI that looks a lot like the settings, the setup UI that you see when you install Windows or install an update or whatever. And it lets you click on, select some settings. But even if you just do nothing and go back, then you will have that header. Right now on this PC, I actually see 3 items. You will eventually see 4. OneDrive, Windows Update, Rewards, and Browser. It's just like, yeah. So I don't see that one on this computer, but I do see it on the computer to my left, and hilarious.
I know.
But anyway,
so the other thing, I also asked him about the other thing that came up on that episode, which was if somebody just happens to look at Windows Update during a week C preview, does the update automatically install on their machine? Because it seems like you don't have to click anything. It just happens. So they denied that is the case, even though that has happened to me. And I know it's happened to
No. That happens all the time.
So they said...
it's not just you.
Right. They said customers have to click download and install for this to happen. And I said,
That's not true.
Don't think that happened to me.
that is true for, I guess we're calling them now, week C cumulative updates. Right. So I actually see one sitting on this PC right now.
It is true for C. Okay.
It is for that. But what is not true is for what they call preview updates. And you'll see them for .NET, something. I don't know if it's .NET, probably .NET Framework. I don't remember. And then for other things as well. Those things will install when you just look at the Windows Update page. You don't have to click anything. All you have to do is load that page, and those things will install. And there's nothing you can do to stop it.
It's only cumulative updates that's the case where you have to download and install. But anything else, if you're a seeker, you're in trouble, basically, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, you'll see. I would say at least 2 of those a month, and possibly more.
Yeah.
Every month. Yeah. Preview updates. You'll see it'll say update preview for blah blah blah, whatever version of Windows you have. Yep, no idea.
Yeah.
Why.
That's good to know. Yeah, because I see those and I go, whoa.
Yeah, why would I want to beta test an update?
I don't want to preview
I'm not on the insider program. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's the mystery solved, which is good.
So we are going to talk a little bit about the Azure authentication outage. We will talk about the printer problem with Kyocera and other printers. We will talk about Edge, the cloud, Microsoft 365 and Xbox, but I want to take a break right now so we can get our Intel guys on and talk to them. Old dear friend Ryan Shrout, and you tell me this is his boss, Josh Newman.
I'll let him describe Josh Newman. Yeah. I don't think he's his assistant.
Well, that's an important distinction. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Our show today brought to you by Worldwide Technologies and Dell Technologies. We are big fans of both. I think you probably know that. Just bought a big Dell computer myself. And actually, we're buying more Dell computers for the Skype machines, or I guess we'll call them Zoom machines now. We're starting to move to Zoom. We use precision workstations for editing. And we love Worldwide Tech. Man, a year ago, we went out to see their Advanced Technology Center. What an amazing thing they've built over the years. It brings together all the knowledge and resources any company needs to be confident that they're choosing the right enterprise solutions. Worldwide Technologies, ATC, contains more than $500 million in hardware and software from hundreds of technology companies. It provides real-time tested proofs of concept tailored for every business, accessible anywhere, anytime. You couple that with their ability to deploy solutions and scale to create new realities for their customers, and you've got something. You really do. By consistently delivering technology and business outcomes, they have established decades-long relationships with many of their customers because these organizations know when it comes to enterprise technology, WWT is there for them and has been. And this Advanced Technology Center, it's an amazing lab, an incubator for IT innovation that contains hundreds of on-demand and schedulable labs, not only that WWT's engineers can use for proofs of concepts to test stuff, but you can use them too. Labs like Dell's VxRail or Cyber Recover Solutions or PowerStore. We saw those beautiful Power Stores all lined up in the rack. Boy, were those pretty. Unity, PowerMax, Data Protection Center, IDPA. These labs at the ATC represent the newest advances in primary storage, but that's not all. Other labs in the ATC represent the latest advances in multi-cloud architecture, security, networking, automation, primary and secondary storage, data analytics, AI, DevOps. I can go on and on. Every corner of the enterprise technology world. It's a way for you to learn about these products before you launch them. It's the way WWT's engineers quickly spin up proofs of concept and pilots. It's a sandbox where they can test the best and weed out the worst and give customers the confidence they're getting exactly what they need and something that works with what they've got today. In many cases, the ATC reduces concept time from months to weeks, which increases, of course, speed to market. Now, this lab as a service is relatively new, only about a year old now, and it is so cool. A dedicated lab space within the Advanced Technology Center where you, as a customer of WWT, can perform programmatic testing using that $500 million ecosystem of enterprise technologies. And because it's virtual, you don't have to go to St. Louis to use it. You can use it anywhere in the world, anytime, 24/7. WWT's ATC platform. It's a multiplier effect of knowledge, speed, and agility available anytime, anywhere for its customers and partners. It's not just the labs, by the way. There's technical articles, insights, demonstration videos, white papers, hands-on labs, and other tools to help you stay up to date with the latest technology. And while you're exploring the ATC platform, I'm going to tell you how you can do that in a second. Make sure you check out WWT's events and communities for really good opportunities to learn about technology trends, hear about the latest research and insights from these experts at WWT. To learn more about worldwide technology, the ATC, and to become a member of their growing community, go to wwt.com/twit. Create an account, gain access to their on-demand labs today. Let worldwide technology help you reach better decisions faster. wwt.com/twit. Worldwide technology, bringing strategy and execution together. Let's go on with your list of stories because there's still a lot more to talk about. How about Edge? What's the latest?
So we were asking last week if we thought Microsoft would go to the every 4-week update schedule that Chromium's doing for Edge. And we said, of course they will. And they are. But they're also, with a twist, they're adding a new channel, the extended stable option, for businesses who don't want to do the every 4-week thing and they want to do the every 8-week thing. So I think that's kind of a nice compromise. And if you're on the extended stable channel, you'll still get security updates more frequently, but you won't get the new features every 4 weeks. Yep. So yeah, I like it. I think that's because I was thinking businesses aren't going to want this every 4-week thing, right?
Yeah. Although browser updates are fairly innocuous, right?
They are usually. They are, yeah. But I just can't emphasize enough. Businesses, you guys think I'm stodgy and I don't want new features?
No, yeah.
Businesses are way more this way than me.
And you'd understand why if you had to support users.
I know. You have hundreds of thousands of desktops and you're getting a new browser every 4 weeks.
Right.
People be screwing around with vertical tabs, blah, 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 calling help desk.
Hey, where are my tabs on the left? I don't understand.
Right.
What's that little icon? I actually got fooled by the vertical tabs by accidentally clicking
that little icon, right?
Elbow icon. And I went, where'd my tabs go?
People would do that, right?
Well, because they don't tell you. There's no announcement. Oh, here's the new thing. It just changes.
Right. So, which, by the way, is something that I think platform makers are starting to wake up to. That you need to pop something up and say, "Hey, by the way, we did some things."
What's new.
You see that on apps now. In fact, okay, now.
Well, Chrome OS does it pretty well. Yeah.
I'm also annoyed by it because then I get an update and all of a sudden I just want to use the app and you're showing me all these buttons and look at this over here. All these call outs pop up. I actually got.
Doesn't Edge do this? No. Well, like when you get a new version of Edge,
they should.
You do, right?
Yeah, they do.
You do.
Did they do that for the tabs, or maybe I just, I probably just clicked OK. Whatever.
Did.
Yeah, right. They did. Yeah, they did. Sure. I gotta get to work. Our Azure stuff. Oh, poor Lisa.
Oh man, I bet.
Our sales system runs on Azure. It's a fairly elaborate, custom coded solution that lets us enter in stuff, generate things. She had entered a lot of data, and I said, Lisa, do not log out. She said, what?
Right.
I said, authentication's down. This has happened before.
Yes.
She was in, and I said, don't log out, but still lost all our data. So what's going on?
Yeah. Wasn't a good look. Monday, around 3 p.m. Eastern, suddenly authentication issues started hitting Azure users worldwide. So if it hits Azure on authentication, it hits everything Microsoft because everything is using Azure Active Directory for authentication,
including Xbox.
Yes, Xbox Live, Office, Teams, Dynamics, plus third-party apps that use Azure AD as their method of authentication, also taken down. So this went on for 14 hours total.
Wow.
Also really
That's
bad.
a long time.
They started fixing it. They figured out what was wrong. They had a key issue where they had some key that was marked as retained that wasn't retained. And then they figured out that was the problem. So they started to mitigate it and only mitigated half of what was going on. So there were all kinds of crazy things happening. They had to roll things back, and then it still didn't fix it. So there is a post-mortem, a preliminary one up on the Azure status page right now that says, this is the exact thing that happened to us in September last year. And we promised at that time we were going to be fixing it and deploying a new safe deployment process, but we're only halfway through doing that. And so that's why it happened again. Yeah, not a good look at all.
No.
Not a good look.
You see, you can never trust the cloud.
I know. Oh, yeah.
Everything's
I bring a USB key everywhere, guys. Come on. Common sense.
No, I saw a Gartner analyst, Lydia Leong, who covers the cloud, saying, okay, this is starting to get to be a problem, Azure guys. This is it's not, you're going to up your SLA to a higher number of nines of reliability, but that doesn't really matter here, right? This is something you guys got to fix because this is really not acceptable. So they say they think that they will have this fixed, I think, by the middle of this year completely, but hopefully this won't happen again before then.
Well, these things happen.
They do.
It's still probably 5 nines or 6 nines, right? I don't know.
I think it's only 99.9 right now.
It's like 7 eighths, guys. Come on.
7 eighths.
What are we talking about here?
We have 7 eighths uptime. We're on our way to 8.8.
Yep.
No, and if it hadn't been last year, they had, I remember in September, late September, they had a multi-factor authentication outage. Then a week later or less, they had another one. And this is the exact same authentication issue again. So people who are watching this are I don't know, Azure, is it dependable? And then you always have to compare it. Okay, could you do better if you were maintaining your own servers and not doing it in the cloud? Probably not, but it still is a bad look.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we are paying Microsoft, and that gives these people a right to complain when things go south. I mean,
True.
Yeah. Well, especially in business. I mean, it's not a good. Yeah.
No, it's not. And 14 hours. That's, even though it was end of day East Coast time, that's still a really long outage, right?
Yeah.
And now I think oh man, where did Ryan go? Oh, there he is. Oh man, we got Josh and we lost Ryan. Let me press the X button. Right, that's all I do, John. Right.
Brady bunch it up.
Watch
Is that
this.
What we're doing?
Yeah.
Watch this. Nothing happened.
What are you, Han Solo? Come on.
Chewy, John. Nothing. Q. Try Q. Ah! It's a magic time. Hello. Okay.
Now it's a round table.
Let's do it from left to right. Paul Thurrott. There's Mr. Ryan Shrout. There's Josh. And here is, I don't know who the lady is at the right.
Yeah, the one. I don't know.
That other person. It's Josh Newman and Mary
Notepad
Jo
enthusiasts of some kind.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Welcome. It's good to see you. Look at you in a little 4 box there.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
I gotta say, I feel like it's been forever since I've done a podcast, and I'm like out of sorts. Like I don't know what to do, how to hold myself, how to compose myself. Oof.
Well,
are you wearing pants, Ryan?
We don't need to know, right? That's why the video is the way it is at home.
As Chief Performance Strategist at Intel, you ought to know. That's a nice little title you got yourself there. That's great.
I feel like you're hiding something behind you.
Yeah, what's that whiteboard doing there?
I had to erase what was on it before, otherwise,
Yeah. There were also there's nothing behind Josh, so we don't have to. You don't have to hide anything, Josh. Introduce Josh. Somebody.
Sounds good.
Somebody introduce yourself, Josh.
How about I introduce myself?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Josh Newman. I run our mobile innovation segments team in the client computing group at Intel.
Nice.
So what that
Very
means is I work with all of our partners that develop incredible laptops, and trying to create the next generation of the best laptop experiences. So work with our engineering teams to set the future requirements, and then also work with the industry to bring about the next great experiences that people are going to love.
We were just looking at the fabulous new ads with Justin Long and a bunch of nice laptops. Really nice stuff. And that really, those ads highlight the real strength of the PC platform is the variety of choices. It's really amazing.
It was one of the dominant themes of the campaign, right? Was to really lean into what are the differences between Mac and PC, right? And what PC provides is choice, is option, and that's partly driven by Microsoft at the OS level. It's driven by Intel and silicon providers at the hardware level. It's driven by customers and innovating and trying new things. And I think Josh can speak to this too, but the competition between the OEMs actually drives a lot of that innovation in this space, right? That I think creates new, unique, innovative solutions at a more regular cadence for us.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to, we had spoken a couple of months ago now, I guess. And, as I don't know if you caught the beginning of the show, but I was saying, one of the things that struck me at the time was, we're kind of on the same page with the whole M1 thing in the sense that, this is a big deal for Apple and for its customers and all that stuff, and for Mac users. That's great. But it seems like it doesn't really change the value prop overall, PC versus Mac, and I think the one thing, and Mary Jo pointed this out too, it's nice to see Intel doing something about it, if that makes sense. Addressing it, because I think all too often, and I don't mean Intel specifically, but in the industry, a lot of times this kind of thing is just met with silence, right? Can you speak a little bit about how you see the whole M1 situation and what's going on with Mac versus PC or whatever?
So I'll speak to your first question there, and then I'll lead it to Josh to talk more about kind of what his thoughts are on from a product standpoint, what that means. But you're right. When we talked the last time, Paul, it was a lot about you gave the feedback of, hey, I'm glad to see somebody doing something, and it was part of one of the things that I saw as well, because I spent 18 years as a technical reviewer doing podcasts and shows like this as an analyst, right? And so I saw from the outside kind of what other companies did when challenged by competition. Were they silent? How did they react? Did they react in the right way? And I came into this role not as some marketing savant or anything like that, but really wanted to bring a technical focus to it, right? You can only get so much tech into a 15-second or a 30-second commercial spot, but making sure we're leading with the product truth, making sure that we're being open and honest and transparent. When you go to that intel.com/GoPC page, at the bottom of it, you're going to see a ton of disclosures about how we tested, how we compared, what software we used, the versions of the operating systems, all that stuff that we really laid out there. And it's not because we really are beholden to some other legal requirement than anybody else, but we just, hey, this is what we think, this is what we believe, and this is the proof that we put behind it. That's kind of the story of the campaign. But from the product side, Josh can have his input there on kind of like how he views M1 either having impact or not having impact on the PC space.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think from the product side, the approach we took, and actually goes back a couple of years, we were starting to look at the innovation that we were seeing in the laptop space and what we could do differently. And, we started seeing a lot of innovation focused toward just making really big phones with keyboards. And we stepped back and wanted to actually kind of break that and think about what do people really want from their laptops. And so we embarked on a bunch of research and looked at some of the most demanding users, most demanding people. And it was people like independent professionals and freelancers, entrepreneurs, higher education students who lived on their laptops. And we were looking at, when did they go to their phone? When did they go to their laptop? And what we found was they went to their laptop when they needed to get things that were really important to them done. And it was they needed time to focus. It was when they needed focus time to go create, to go do something very intentional. And we concluded we just needed to deliver an experience that made the laptop better at that. It still needed to, be, connectivity needed to be less of a worry. Battery life had to be less of anxiety. But we had to keep driving on the things that made it easier for people to focus, to be immersed, to adapt to the different roles they played throughout the day. And so we started this program called Project Athena, which was really about how do we create that vision, and then through an annual specification-driven process with our OEM partners to drive that experience every year and keep working on innovation toward that. And that really culminated in Intel Evo. So we launched the Intel Evo brand last September. And the first 50 plus laptops are now available in the market based on that new brand. And what that is those laptops that met the specifications that we laid out and also verified to a couple key experiences that are very different than what traditional benchmarks measure. So it's augmenting the traditional benchmarks about going for a different specific speed or measuring specific types of compute power, but actually looking at how people really use their laptops. So we tried to do things that were very hard to do, like measure responsiveness with lots of background tasks, with Wi-Fi on, with all of the uncertainty and chaos that a normal laptop session includes, but to try to do those kinds of measurements and then tune the systems to improve at those measurements. And measure them, do it 30 times. These are days of testing that we do to get a statistical alignment on what the actual experience is going to feel like when people use it. Same thing with battery life. We took that real world approach of background applications, browser tabs open, connected to Wi-Fi, all the things that make it really hard to benchmark because it varies from run to run to run to run. But then to do the engineering work to tune it, to make sure the products met the specifications, and then make sure that they verified and met those new criteria so that we knew what people needed were being delivered by these products. And so as we go forward, that's our approach. It's what do people need? How do we go put these new, more rigorous, specifications, but also key experience verification tests to deliver better and better experiences each year, new usages each year that really deliver what people want. And I think, if you look at, compared to what others are doing, we think that's, as long as we're delivering what people want, that's gonna guide the best product and the best experiences.
Do you mind? Could one of you or both of you maybe describe some of the things that go into getting an Evo certification, if that's the right term?
Sure. Yeah, it starts with we work early in the definition phase with whether it's Dell or HP or Lenovo or Samsung. So it probably starts 2, sometimes even 3 years earlier, where we're looking at, specs down the line that we want to create and future versions of our products. And so even planning it as they're thinking about their next generation of chassis and tooling and which panel displays they're going to choose. So we start doing some of that, increasingly we're pulling, further and further left in that planning process with them. But if you just look at the Intel Evo platforms that are available now, you think about a year ago, we really started with the systems that we were co-engineering with the OEMs, helping them design the smallest motherboards possible so that they can get lots of performance, small motherboard, really powerful cooling so that they can maximize the performance, but also create a lot of space for battery, for antennas, for all the other things that you need to fit without having to grow the footprint and the thickness of the system. So we do a lot of that co-engineering work with Intel engineers side by side with the customers. And then around, once we have silicon and the OEMs have their, near final products, we start to bring them into our labs. and our engineers start doing the tuning that we can do with the firmware and the BIOS and a lot of different settings in the system that can react either real time using machine learning or in a static way just based on the system design to really dial all those knobs really carefully. So we're getting the best balance of performance, responsiveness, but also battery life and power and thermals. And then ultimately it goes through to where we say, okay, it meets these key experience indicators, or it's verified to these key experiences, or it's not, and we have to make some tweaks and changes. And in some cases, they don't make it. In many cases, it's that deep co-engineering that gets them across the line so we can agree that it's met the criteria and it gets to wear the Evo badge.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking to Brad Sams this morning, a guy I work with, and we had said in the past, when people had asked us, well, I want to get a laptop, what am I looking for here? And it's like, make sure you go at least quad core, so that would be like 8th gen or newer Intel chips. And I was saying, it's possible that the 11th gen with Iris Xe graphics might be the next milestone of that sort, right? Because I'm still in the middle. I've still got a couple of laptop reviews I'm finishing up that are like 10th gen chipsets, and they're great laptops and all that stuff. But when you go from 10th gen to 11th gen, actually there's a huge change there because of the built-in graphics, right? We finally got off of traditional UHD graphics, which are fine, obviously for productivity work, whatever. But you see this big change when you get up to XE graphics, and I feel like maybe that's, and a lot of these are going to be Evo branded in the premium space, obviously. But it just seems to me like this is a major architectural change. Or
there was, the 11th gen products, and I'm trying to. I just call them Tiger Lake internally. We just use these code names forever for years and years building up to it. So I'm trying to make sure I'm referencing it in a way that people understand it. It is a pretty big shift for us, right? It was a shift on the graphic side. I think we basically said, somewhere around 80% improvement in raw graphics performance, integrated graphics. And so for productivity and basic compute tasks, what is that useful for? It turns out a lot of stuff can use GPU compute. Right, not just gaming. Gaming is the first thing that people think of when you talk about graphics performance. But we added in some new AI, ISA extensions, DP4A extensions in the graphics as well. And so, adding that graphics capability in there, I think, makes it just a more robust system. And then the CPU cores are improved, the efficiencies are improved, and everything that Josh's teams work on in terms of improving efficiencies, doing better co-engineering with the OEMs, just kind of gets iterated on generation after generation. Because there were Athena certified, verified products previously as well, but this is the first time. This is like the second generation of that then got the brand of Evo. And I look at it as, you said when you were talking with Brad about, just as long as it's a quad core, it's an 8th gen or better, you're good. Evo is still going to be our premium product brand, but I think the goal is for it to be that representative brand of you know what you're going to get if you get a system that has that Evo label sticker attached to it. You have some minimum threshold performance, responsiveness, capability as well. And, just in terms of trying to simplify the buying experience for consumers in a lot of ways, I think that can be helpful.
Yeah, I think I would just to add on to that, the Intel Evo branded systems all feature 11th gen Intel Core with Iris Xe graphics, so it is that level. Right. And they also have, besides all that experience verification, they also have some very consistent features. So they all have Wi-Fi 6, they all have Thunderbolt 4. And then we've also the specification also, as we were looking at the research of freelancers, independent professionals, long before remote work became a very common thing, we noticed that they were using video conferencing a lot more frequently than typical people, or the more general population was using it. And so we started to put into the spec a higher audio and microphone and camera requirements into that, and that's something we definitely see going forward. That's increasingly important for more people. So we'll be continuing to drive that innovation there. So it's also a work, not just what we do with the OEMs and our own product roadmap, but we also reach out to the rest of the industry suppliers. So the display panel manufacturers and battery manufacturers and other key subsystems to make sure that we're all working toward that same vision for each year of improving the experience. So the whole program, comprehends how we come together as an industry to deliver the best possible experiences.
Yeah, and I would say, just to interject again, like coming into Intel, I've been here for over 2 years now, but one of the things that I think there were several things that I was very surprised by when I came in. One is the number of software developers that we had in the company. And two was like how many engineering teams we have that are dedicated to the work Josh is talking about working with the OEMs at the planning phase of their machines to get the right panels, get the right coolers, get the right secondary devices, things that Intel isn't manufacturing, that we're not building for them, but using a lot of our engineering resources to say, hey, we've done a lot of testing. We think this is the best configuration that's going to get you the best performance out of that chip, or the best battery life, or the best combination of that. And I think that goes overlooked a lot of because you just don't see it, right? You buy a Dell, you buy an HP, you buy a Lenovo. It's got that Intel badge on it. But there was a lot more going on behind the scenes that I had ever really expected to see.
So we got to talk about Apple. Could you guys talk about Apple?
You can. You gotta ask us the questions, Paul.
Do we have to talk about Apple?
He lobs that one over. I was going to say, could you guys dump on Apple? No, I don't mean it like that. But obviously, I mean, this is a big shift over there. I feel like Apple or Intel has gotten the end of the shaft that a lot of former Apple partners have gotten. I mean, this is their strategy, right? They want to do everything themselves, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, how do you guys view M1 and I mean, what's your position, I guess, on M1? I guess would be or an Apple silicon in general.
So obviously, what we say about it is going to be a little bit restricted here. Look, I would say, if you want to know why they moved over to M1, you got to the standard PR canned answer is you got to go ask Apple those questions, right? I think most people are intelligent enough to understand that Apple they have different controls, different goals and vectors that they're trying to optimize on, and building their own silicon allows them to do some specific things that they didn't think they were going to be able to do, right or wrong. And so now our job is to make sure that the PC ecosystem and all of our partners are empowered to build systems that are better in as many different ways as possible than anything powered by Apple Silicon. It's been, from my point of view, it's been an interesting conversations going in and talking with some of the laptop OEMs, for example, because they've been competing against Apple for years, right? They've had this on their mind for a decade or longer, and we're coming in now going, okay, now we get it. Okay, let's go figure this out together. When we had Intel processors in the Macs, and we still sell some today, but we see the writing on the wall. They've made a very public statement of, we're going to have all of our own silicon and our own Mac products in 2 years. And so we understand that, and we now know where we have to build marketing and competitive stances and messages around. I think from a product specific standpoint, I think M1 it's a good processor, right? It does a lot of things well, but it was overly positioned as dominating in performance and maybe enabling capabilities and features that had never existed before. And it's just not true, right? Like it's not what it is. When they come out with a statement about faster than 98% of PC laptops, we all kind of like wince a little bit and go, where are they getting that data? What is that based on? And never finding out that information about what data source or what system they tested or over what time period those claims were made. Back to my original statement about kind of being open and transparent about our information. But when kind of, let's say somebody's taking a swing at you, then our job is to sit back, understand the landscape of what the M1 provides, what those MacBooks provide or don't provide to consumers, and then what's our competitive positioning? Where do we have strong stories and messages to tell about multi-display support or accessory support or application compatibility or those other things that are part of that campaign and story that I know that you guys have talked about previously?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to what Ryan said is the energy that it's injected back into the PC industry and the excitement to go innovate and just build better experiences is probably going to serve us very well in the long run.
Interesting. I mean, do you is there something that Intel learns from the M1? I mean, is there a and maybe not even technically speaking necessarily, although I assume that's part of it as well. I mean, does this impact anything you're doing in the PC space going forward?
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's not the case, right? We respond to all these competitive processors in different ways. We look at what AMD does. We look at what Apple does from a technical standpoint. We look at what they do from a marketing standpoint or from a product positioning standpoint. I think maybe Josh's earlier point is actually right. I think it re-energizes some groups, some partnerships. Yeah. I think it reignites an Intel plus Microsoft plus the ecosystem push and campaign and strive for innovation, more so than even we had done over the last 5 years. And I think that'll be a net positive for consumers. The stereotypical statement of competition is good for the consumer, I think is accurate. It's true. And as Intel, our job is to iterate, repeat, engineer, design, improve, and tell our story along the way.
Yeah, I think it was. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was going to add on to that. It's just I think to the extent it brings more attention of developers with incredibly innovative software or experiences back to the form factor, right? Where maybe they were focused on phones and tablets. If it's now bringing that back to thinking about how do you make the best experience for a laptop, then that, again, it's going to serve laptop customers well. Right? This newfound energy is going to serve future laptop customers well that the whole industry is now innovating with. So I think that you can call it a learning, but I think we view that as an opportunity.
We do call that a learning here. Thank you for using that.
Here we pluralize learning. That's the only difference.
We call it learnings.
Yep.
I just wanted to say, that I'm excited that you guys are doing this because I'm a longtime Windows user. And I guess I felt for this past several years that I couldn't find a product that met my needs. And I felt like my needs were very simple and very universal. Like I kept saying, where are all the thin, light laptops with really long battery life? Like this seems really basic, right? And why can't I find one? I was willing to pay top dollar to get a really good one. And I kept trying out different ones. I'd be like, yeah, too heavy. Yeah, the battery life says 15 hours, but it's really 4. So I'm excited to see this. And I was telling Leo and Paul before the show started, I'm starting to test out the ThinkPad X1 Nano, which is an Evo laptop. And I can't believe how light and thin and so far good on battery life it is. So I feel like this is just going to be a positive for normal consumers who, every time I ask people, they'd be like, you know what, you really need a Mac. Like you need a MacBook. Like that's what you're asking for. And I'm like, no, that isn't what I'm asking for. I want a Windows PC. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, Mary Jo, because that means we can continue to push on Josh and his team on the engineering side to build a better product so that it makes my job in the marketing world a little bit easier. Absolutely. Yep.
That is great to hear. Thanks for sharing that.
I was going to say earlier.
I'll ask the question back. Like, I mean, what do you guys think of the positioning and stance and some of the work? I mean, I know you've tested a couple of Evo machines at this point too, Paul. And
I mean, I love it. I like the way you're doing it. Just today we saw the ads, right? So I think the beautiful thing about the ads is that, you had said earlier on, I think it was you, that we watched how other companies responded to this kind of thing. A lot of them did nothing. Well, one of those companies was Microsoft. And this happened in Windows Vista timeframe when that was coming out and the Mac, I'm a Mac ads were happening. And they were full of lies. And I would go to Microsoft and say, "What? You got to do something about this, What?" And it's like, well, we can't market like they can. We can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And, it took them a year. And they finally came up with that Mojave experiment thing, if you remember that. And it was just kind of, I just, like their silence on this was so, I think was just so counterproductive and wrong. And they were still in a place where, like, you know, they thought by even mentioning their name, we're giving them some kind of a reputation. Like, we don't even want to mention them, you know?
Yep.
And I think responding to it's correct. I love the transparency thing you were talking about. And this is where we get all this data. It's not just a random 97% with an asterisk or something. You know, it's based on something real. And I like the just the truth of that. I mean, I like that it's not an exaggeration. And there are, you know, we all know these things. I mean, but there are real world reasons why the PC is superior to the Mac. The Mac does some things well. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And the M1 does some things very well, for sure. But, you know, the things that you kind of lay out, you know, the diversity of the ecosystem, the versatility of some of the systems that can transform into tablets and use smart pens and have multi-touch displays and all that stuff. The gaming stuff, obviously, you know, multiple displays. I mean, that might change over time or whatever. But I mean, these are all real world benefits or advantages of the PC. And in some ways, it's like, well, a lot of these have always been real world advantages of the PC. It's like, I think that's what gets lost. We are in this enthusiast world, and they're like, oh, you know, Intel's dead. What are we going to do? You know, and it's like, guys, I don't think this has changed the equation all that much. It's still, you know, when you look at Mac versus PC, it still seems to me, you know, we're kind of in the same place.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say that even though I wasn't one of the people who got from you guys an M1 system, which was good because I absolutely hate Apple and I wouldn't have even opened the box. But I love that you went to journalists and said, okay, we're going to give you an Apple PC and we want you to compare it to us. It shows a lot of confidence. Yeah. Right.
And by the way,
and I feel like
also,
that's what's been missing, right?
That's also something I've seen misrepresented. You know, it's like, I saw headlines like Intel is trying to beat Apple with specific benchmarks or something. And it's like, well, what? What are you talking about? I talked to Intel. They very specifically said not to use benchmarks. Like what? Like they, you know. Yeah. I feel like your approach to this has just been so open and honest. And, you know, you gave me and others, I know, I'm sure, I guess, but, you know, the opportunity. So look, here's some systems, you know, pick what you want. And I didn't pick five. I picked, you know, one of each or whatever, but could have, you know, for sure. And it's like, look, just here, whatever, you know, I mean, here's, and I appreciate it. I do a lot of, you know, briefings with PC makers and software, you know, Microsoft, obviously. And I'll just say, having done many years of that, like your approach to this was actually really refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate that. It was a little bit of a, you know, had to push past some executives
sure.
When I said I'm going to send people an M1 powered MacBook. It's like, you're going to do what? It's like, well, we're going to send it. We're going to tell the story about why we think our advantage is there. We've got Evo machines. We're gonna put up there. We're gonna put the MacBook up there. Some accessories and other devices that we think again tell the PC story. And I do think it was successful, right? I think it was it showed what we saw, right? We did the same thing as many other users did. We sat with the devices. You know, my whole focus since being at Intel is about competitive stuff. It's competitive analysis to competitive marketing, what have you. And it's sometimes you gotta, for lack of a better phrase, you gotta dog food it, right? We're gonna use this machine and see what it's like. We're gonna use the Windows machine and see what it's like. Find those differences and make sure we talk about it. It's we get accused of not being as open and transparent very often,
right?
And then I see a lot of what other companies do, and I'm like, how are we the bad guy still? I don't get it. So it's helpful for me to hear from you, Paul, that you appreciate it. That's good.
It's true. I mean, and you know, and it's hard for me. You know, unfortunately, I have to write about this stuff. So you know, the people that comment on my website or whatever are those. You know, very pedantic technical types, and they're picking apart every sentence I've chosen, and they're comparing it to these things I wrote in the past about whatever. You know, you said the Dell Express was great, but you know, whatever. So whatever, that's the world. But no, I like, you know.
I feel like Intel is in somewhat of the same boat Microsoft was up until fairly recently, where people had this a lot of old software, and they had an idea of how things looked and worked, and they weren't always up to date on the latest things. And then when you showed them the new stuff, they were like, wait, what's that? And I feel like PCs are that way too. Like a lot of people, you know, we talk about how often people refresh PCs. Well, consumers like hold on to them as long as they can a lot of times, right? And I remember showing my niece a Surface Pro 6, I think, and she goes, when did this come out? I can't even believe this is like a real piece of hardware, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's like what a PC is now, right? So yeah, I think it's good to get like the most up to date and modern and newest things into people's hands because a lot has changed very quickly in hardware, especially.
Right. Leo's been awfully quiet.
What do you want me to say? Yeah,
I don't know. I just want to make sure you're not being spoken over. I mean, is there anything?
It was the vaccine. We just wanted to make sure.
No, I'm fine. I'm still here alive.
These days,
I don't think
lolling around.
Ryan or Josh would have anything to say about this, but with your new CEO and some of the issues Intel's been facing is these giant fabs and the kind of the forced integration that these billion-dollar investments require. And of course, the speculation is that Gelsinger will perhaps go fabless. You want to say anything about that, Al? I know it's not your bailiwick.
No.
That's why I didn't ask.
End of sentence.
Yeah. I mean, it's you're doing your job, right? It's the right question to ask. I don't have anything to add there. I think Pat is. I'm excited about Pat coming on board. I think he's probably going through a million different conversations about all of those types of decisions that have to get made.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily envy having kind of taking that responsibility in. I think he's in week 4 maybe or something like that.
Right.
This will be the first big decision I imagine he'll have to make, though. They deferred to him, right? Right. But I know I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Ryan or Josh. I know that this is not.
Yeah, it's like you had Intel on the show and you didn't ask them about it.
Well, then the other question would be: is Intel considering perhaps? I think you have an ARM architecture license. Am I correct in that? Are you considering maybe looking at some risk modifications, some risky business?
Josh, I don't know if you have anything you want to say on that. I mean, we're always looking at new core designs, new architectures, new products. I'm going to say, as Ryan, not as an Intel Ryan, I'm almost positive we have an ARM license because of acquisitions and other companies. As for what we're doing with it, they don't tell me that, Leo. No. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, in my domain, it's completely focused on reigniting and getting the developers enthusiastic about the x86 development again and creating amazing PC experiences. So that's
quite reasonably
where I'm completely focused.
Yeah, that's your bread and butter. And again, as I said at the beginning, the diversity of the PC ecosystem is unparalleled. I mean, nobody, Apple's one company. It's not going to have hundreds of different designs. It's going to have one. You like it or you don't. That's your, take it or leave it.
Sure. Well, no, one of them's grayer, Leo, remember?
Let me ask, and I'm sure Paul and Mary Jo, many of our listeners already know this, gray or grayer.
Yeah.
But you don't usually think of, you don't buy a PC from Intel, unless maybe you're buying a NUC, but generally you're buying from an OEM. What is the relationship between the designs, Josh, that you do? Are they considered concepts, prototypes? I know you did the NUC, you did the Ultrabook. And what is the relationship to OEMs on that? Do you say to them, here, we'd like you to do this, or here's just something you could play with? Or
Yeah. We do a lot of concept designs and then reference designs. So a lot of times you'll see us demo things at CES or at Computex, and they're actually Intel designs that we've taken all the way through to something that looks like it's just missing a price tag and a system brand on it. But the reason we do those designs is to prove next generation technology. So we create new hinge designs or new panel, prove out new display panels.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's industrial design as well as
thermals. A lot of focus on the cooling solutions in those. But then the idea is that's IP we create. That's technology we create that we can then give to the OEMs. We can give it to Dell or give it to Samsung and help them with their design. So that's really the key bias in how we do our full system manufacturing or system development. It's all in service of helping the industry create better laptop designs and experiences.
For years, Intel made the motherboards in most of these. Are you still a big motherboard supplier?
So we do. So we make reference motherboards for laptops, but for the most part, it's the OEM and their chosen original design manufacturer that will do their final motherboard because they have to map to the OEM supply chain and the like. But we have a business that's a little bit more on the desktop PC side, but that we do create finished product that regional or local OEMs can pick up and then just put their brand on. So we do have a roadmap of, like, the Nook is a great example of that. And we still do, desktop motherboards that are Intel branded, but really in service of more of those regional OEMs where maybe the larger system manufacturers aren't servicing certain parts of the countries or certain very specific vertical use cases where we can come in and provide a next level of integration. But our first priority is really enabling the industry, enabling the Dells, Lenovo's, HPs, Samsungs of the world to create their great products.
Yeah. I'm also, I don't want to go back to Apple again, but I will for just a brief moment. Apple isn't a huge part of your business. It's a, fractional customer, but it's probably, as a single OEM, a fairly important customer. Is the loss of Apple a big deal for you guys? Was that a blow?
I'd say it was certainly, wasn't something we were thrilled about.
That's
but
honest.
As far as what drives us to the edge of innovation, we have a lot of customers, and we've always had a lot of customers that have been increasingly driving us, more to push at the edges of innovation. And now, like I said, with this Apple kind of re-energizing some of that industry momentum and excitement toward a common vision, which is what we're trying to drive with Athena and Intel Evo. I feel we're really energized to go drive at the edges faster. So I think it's not something we're happy about, but we're gonna keep driving innovation and really drive it hard.
That's actually a great way to contextualize it, to say, all right, this is a challenge, and not to roll over, but say, good, this is good for us. We're gonna push as a result. I don't, that's all I had. If you guys have anything else, please.
I have one last.
Oh, go ahead.
March 23rd. What is going on?
Oh, good question. That's the big Apple event, right?
Is it? If you could just send an agenda.
Let me. I've got that queued up here. I'll just forward it over.
He confirmed it.
Can you share your screen?
Somebody told me earlier, they sent me a message that my screens were kind of reflecting off of this whiteboard, so I had to make sure I didn't have anything on the side.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. So no comment on the date?
How about a hint?
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's a week.
Pat's going to be
I
there.
saw there's an Intel event that day, virtual event. No?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add for it, right? It's but if Pat's going to be there, it's probably going to be important.
You'll find out. It'll be
Yeah,
so
what Ryan
exciting.
I would like to say it's not the same podcasting without one of those microphones sitting in front of me.
I know.
This headset is very
We miss
different.
you, Ryan. We really
thing.
do.
I'm ready to come back.
No,
ready
don't say that. Hey, how's Alan Malventano doing? Do you ever get to see him?
Excellent. Yeah, he is here or was here earlier. I'd look around.
Nice.
Yeah, everybody's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's been actually interesting for TWiT as a company because not only did you guys go to Intel, we had a number of other contributors go to Apple. It's been a brain drain. So, but I'm flattered by it. I'm really pleased for both of you. I think you're doing great there. I could tell you're
I
doing
appreciate
great.
it. It's a ton of fun, and when I retire, I'll come back. I could do the show with Paul every week.
Good.
Get
Deal.
Joe.
Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah.
You have a standing offer, Ryan. We miss you, but I think you got a great title, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of fun things. And Josh, it's a pleasure meeting you too.
Likewise.
I say the stuff you
Thanks
guys are doing is amazing. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love talking about this stuff. So.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, that's good. How long have you been in Intel, Josh?
Oh, I've been in Intel 28 years.
What?
Oh, wow.
Intern while I was getting my electrical engineering degree. So yeah, a little while.
That's the whole PC industry practically. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I worked on, when I came in, it was pre-Pentium. I was working on supporting our systems business at the time based on the new 486 processors. So
the hot new 486. And I remember, was it the MX and the, oh man.
Yep.
Exciting times.
The 486 DX and SX, right? The one that didn't have
they took out the floating point.
Yeah, I'd like to complain about the 486 SX.
I would want floating point.
I wasn't on a design team until Pentium and Pentium Pro.
I was reading, and you were there for this. I was reading an old InfoWorld or something with Brett Glass, who's a good friend of the show, moaning about the Pentium 3 chip has a unique identifier. And remember when we were all upset about that? We thought, oh, that's the end of the world. Now, everything you got's got a unique identifier.
I remember
somewhere in Russia, someone's like, he's on.
I bet you do, Josh. I bet you do. Josh Newman, VP Mobile Innovation at Intel. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Ryan Shrout, who is not only a good friend, but also Chief Performance Strategist at Intel. What a title. What a title. Great to have you both. Thanks for joining us on This Weekly. We really appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now, if I press Q, I think they disappear.
We'll probably get rid of you. There it is.
It's a miracle. Holy cow.
Is Q for qubit?
You know, I don't know what the rationale is. When they gave me this keyboard, it was further away from the space bar. You see, this gave me this keyboard. It has all these these little 3M labels.
It looks like a Dell keyboard from 1997. What? Is it like a wired keyboard?
I told you we're a Dell house.
Is it a PS2 connector on the other side of that?
I don't dare unplug it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And here's a fine Dell mouse, too. Yeah.
Wow.
I told you. We're a Dell house, my friend.
Those around here somewhere.
I also have, it's funny because I have a Microsoft mouse over here, so
nice.
I'm agnostic.
Back in the ambidextrous days.
I'm a lefty, right? So this is my favorite mouse.
So they don't really make. Well, no, I guess they do still have a few like that, but most of them are right-handed.
Half a dozen of them a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because this is
I'm pretty sure my wife uses that exact mouse right now.
Sure, she does.
Because she's left-handed as well.
Yeah. This is the mouse. It's a fantastic mouse.
Oh, that red light. That's heightened accuracy right there.
It's got lasers. I could do another ad. Why don't I do that? Conga. Conga is allowing businesses to take their paper-based operations and streamline them to digitize everything. Are you ready to evolve your operations, streamline your workflows, create and deliver digital documents, quotes, and contracts more effectively? I tell you, this is the year to do, this pandemic was the time to do it, right? Maybe you've been struggling with it. Oh, I got to tell you about Conga, C-O-N-G-A, or Conga. It helps businesses digitally transform their commercial operations. Other companies might be, and I won't name any names, but you know who I'm talking about, stepping away from opportunities like this. Conga believes this is the time to keep moving forward. The manual processes that we used back in the day when we could do in-person and in-office stuff obviously stopped about almost exactly a year ago. Businesses found themselves limiting contact, working from home. And, we're almost at the end of that. I think we're going to head back to our offices. But really, this has been an opportunity to explore digital transformation. And I think it went this year from being an aspiration to kind of a non-negotiable requirement. If you've been struggling with it, you've got to know about Conga. It offers the most robust solution for digital document, process, and commercial excellence transformation. Their end-to-end digital document transformation suite can help you automate and optimize your daily documents and contracts to save time, close business faster, and empower your teams to work with more purpose. Conga Composer will power up customer engagement. With Composer, a digital document generation, say from Salesforce, if that's your CRM, quick and error-free every time. You want to do this automatically. You don't want to manually enter this data in. And because Conga's designed to work with Salesforce, you can create beautiful templated documents directly from Salesforce. You can even automate it so the content's always accurate, the data's always accurate. Pull data from your CRM or any system of record easily, quickly, and most importantly, without error. Deliver documents in a variety of formats by almost any method you choose. Store it wherever you want. Conga is about freedom, not about limiting you. And advanced features for Composer Enterprise include real-time document notifications that reveal recipient engagement and make follow-up simple. You know they've read it. You know they looked at it. Now you can call them. With Conga Batch, you can consolidate, schedule, and deliver the documents you create with Composer. You choose how you want to launch it, when you want to send it, whether you want to do it automatically or on demand, push or pull. You can even do it for multiple documents at once. There's an add-on for Composer called Conga Trigger that will let you create and distribute digital documents automatically from Composer in Salesforce without having to click a single button every time. So that is awesome. I'll give you an example. T-Mobile for Business uses Conga. They save time and money with Conga. The sales reps didn't have to, they were literally manually writing stuff into the sales proposals. And it was worse because their customers couldn't see the proposals in writing, or they had to create additional documents that were time-consuming, caused errors. With Conga Composer, T-Mobile sales promotions have never been clearer, easier, or I'll say it, more beautiful. Nice magenta color. What used to take 24 to 48 hours to file a case and request a ticket, now an instant report. Sales teams now avoid multiple systems. T-Mobile says they've seen a 25% increase in user adoption, and they're getting paid faster. Conga, committed to improving how people do business at a much larger scale with additional resources. They know we're all in this together, so experience Conga's new brand. We've got a fun little trivia contest at conga.com/twit, conga.com/twit. Test your knowledge of trivia, share it on social. Conga will take the results and donate to a charity supporting COVID relief efforts, too. Nice. Conga, C-O-N-G-A, Conga, like a conga line. Conga.com/twit. Thank you for supporting Windows Weekly, guys. We can continue on. There's still a few things on your rundown we didn't get to, but that was great talking to Ryan and Josh, and I think they were very good. And
I hope it came through kind of the vibe that I got from these folks when I talked to them. It's just like they're, look, they were obviously competing with Apple and everything, but there's a real honesty to the message and a transparency, which whatever we can debate, merits and whatever, but I mean,
they're not going to say, "Oh yeah, God, Apple, what are we going to do now?" Jerks.
Screw it again.
They did the exact right thing, which is great. That's a challenge. That makes us better. And I think that's actually the truth of it. And I hope that Intel takes the challenge. I hope they get the chance to show what they can do and come up with something even better. That's good for us.
I will say the ads are brilliant, and I think they will speak to normal people, which is a huge difficulty in the tech space. So that's good.
Well, play to your strengths. And what is the strength of the PC marketplace? It's diversity. It's variety.
Yep, for
it's
sure.
amazing. You want touch, you can get it. You don't want it, you don't have to get it, and so forth. I didn't ask him anything about AMD. I didn't want to touch that sore spot there.
Right.
I think also those guys might not have been
breathing up their neck.
Yeah, it's as bad as talking about M1.
And they probably can't. No. Like they're probably not even authorized.
Yes. No, of course
to
not.
talk about certain things.
I mean, right. I mean, right. So this is a very specific campaign that they're doing, and we kind of stick to that. For the most part. I feel bad that maybe we didn't go into more depth on what Evo is.
No, I think.
Well, I gave them that opportunity. I mean, I've got an article coming up that's discussing Evo, because I think a lot of people see that and they're like, well, it's a sticker on a laptop. Who cares? Right. And actually, the two things that kind of stuck out for me, I didn't really say this at the time, were they were talking about how they work with PC makers, and these are very specific things that go into this. And I can tell you, I regularly have briefings with HP, Lenovo, and Dell, and every single thing that they promote through Evo is exactly what those PC makers talk about. It's Wi-Fi 6, it's at least 9 hours of battery life, it's Thunderbolt 4 capabilities, it's Iris Xe graphics and how that changes everything. Like literally the things that go into Evo, which I know a lot of people think is like a marketecture or whatever, it is, and even I didn't know how to say it. It's like, is it a certification? I don't know what the exact word is, but to qualify for that sticker, which I know people don't like stickers on laptops, but to qualify for that, those PCs do have to meet a very specific list of criteria,
and that helps shoppers. That helps buyers understand.
It does.
It literally, if you
does.
see that, and that's what I meant with the conversation with Brad. It was like we used to be able to say, look for the 8th generation thing that will give you the quad core or newer, right? And now, really, I think the 11th gen is where we kind of take this next leap, because it is this Evo thing, and it is the Iris Xe graphics, it is the Thunderbolt 4, it is the Wi-Fi 6, it is 9+ hours of battery life. And it's not 9+ hours of battery life looping videos on Wi-Fi or whatever, like the nonsense benchmarks we have, like real world battery life. And you see it in the products. So anyway, it's a real thing. Yeah. I know some people are going to be jaded about that, but
I think of it as like a set of specs that you can count on. Like I don't even think of it like a certification or a sticker. I just
it's like the
yeah.
Sorry.
Is it a system on a chip though? Is it a hardware thing? No. It's just a list of features.
It's a set of things.
It's a list of things you have to meet, right? In order to
They've done this before. They've done this many times.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And even, by the way, Evo is actually a pretty good brand. You mentioned Project Athena, right? Literally, they never got past the name Project Athena.
I know.
So it became that's really vague, right? And so literally, if you go back a year or 2 years or whatever, there are HP, Lenovo, Dell, all of them in briefings would mention Athena occasionally. Like they would say, this is an Intel Athena class PC, and they would kind of move on from it. But it wasn't like a big marketing point. I think what Intel realized is maybe it improved, maybe they formalized it a little bit more. But by moving to this Evo brand, they are literally putting like a good housekeeping seal of approval on a laptop. And you can at a glance know that this thing is going to meet certain parameters which are important to you. And literally kind of map to what Mary Jo was saying that she wanted in a laptop. Thin, light, super good battery life.
Good battery life, yeah.
Then I was going to ask him how you get those stickers off. Like, do they recommend Gooby Gone or a razor blade? What is the
first
best
of all,
way?
you don't cut your fingernails for a couple weeks. That's just step one.
And then you can really just peel them off. Yeah. It's so funny because sometimes, I follow all the PC subreddits on Reddit. And I don't know why, but for some reason, enthusiasts love taking pictures of my new laptop, my new baby. Like, I know you don't have to send me a picture of a... Anyway... Half these people take I can't take these stickers. They're all gone. You notice I don't have any stickers on mine. And the other half are carefully preserving them. People will post something like, my Intel Inside sticker's curling a little bit. What do you recommend? Oh, just put a little nail polish over it. It'll keep it stale and stiff. And
you could, encase it in lucite, and you can turn it into like a little monument on your desk.
People are just, people are funny.
Yeah.
People are funny. Yeah. It's their baby.
Right.
All right. Quickly, let's get through the rest of this crap so we can go to lunch. No, I'm just... Did I say that out loud?
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay.
It's gas station sushi day here at Twit.
Oh, boy.
How about let's talk about that Azure. You talked about the Azure.
Yeah, we did the Azure thing. Yeah.
I was a little... Okay, Brad Smith. Can we talk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on, though. Like... Well, so look, companies competing against each other, however they choose to do so, is perfectly fine. It's the natural order of things. We could talk about Brad Smith. I know Mary Jo might have a few words.
He testified in front of Congress, basically threw Google to the wolves.
Yes, which isn't that surprising given how they compete, right?
Well, and here's the rationale behind that.
Yeah, but was it true? That's the question. I mean... Yeah, I understand. We're competing against Google, blah, blah, blah. But to say, oh, yeah, Google should be paying publishers. In fact, you should make a law, U.S. Congress, because Google is taking, Microsoft should not be lobbying for a link tax. That's not good for anybody.
This is all about Bing. This is all about Bing.
No, well, listen, if Microsoft could have... created an ad business like Google's, right? If Microsoft could have created a search engine that was as successful as Google's, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, right? So, but again, let's not apply moral nature to a company. I mean, it's just whatever.
I know.
Okay, fine.
You're right.
One of the reasons Microsoft can go after Google or Facebook or whoever in this case is that they just don't make a lot of their money from advertising, right? Google is 80-something%. I don't remember the number. Google's entire business is based on tracking users and selling that tracking information to advertisers. I mean, it's the business. Right. So, yeah, they're kind of an easy target if this is the topic, right? But if you go back and look at that, I'm not going to be able to find it off the top of my head, but if you go back and look at what he wrote, he literally said something toward the end of his testimony that was something to the tune of, if Google wasn't lying so much about this stuff, we probably wouldn't have supported Australia. And it was like, wait, what? I mean, it was kind of interesting. And I sort of think that might have played a role in what I will describe as an unhinged response from Google, which I was delighted that they talk about going off the rails. I mean, they ranted about SolarWinds, about the exchange thing.
Yeah, they basically,
as if
Google's response was, Microsoft's just doing hand waving so you won't pay any attention to the SolarWinds and exchange hacks. They're saying, no, look over here. Look at Google.
No, I'm sorry. No offense to Kent Walker is the guy's name, the chief legal officer at Google. No offense to that gentleman, but seriously, first of all, just from a historical standpoint, that's not the order in which these things happen, for one thing. So it's coincidental. He literally said, it's not coincidental that Microsoft. Yeah, actually, it literally is coincidental. like you're being asked, Google, about you destroying journalism, and what you're pointing at you're the one waving your hands. Like, yeah, but look at SolarWinds. That was Microsoft. They're terrible. It's like, yeah, okay, but what does that have to do with you destroying journalism? Well, but look at the exchange thing. Is it a coincidence? I mean, it's like, I'm not a big-time country lawyer, but, what are you talking about? That's crazy.
The Google PR team sent me a note, and they're like, we didn't see you write about this, and we wanted to make sure you saw our blog post on this. And so I sent them back a note, and I said, I did see this, and I thought it was so bizarre, I couldn't even figure out what to say, but why are you even fighting them over this? Because obviously this has nothing to do about journalism. This is all about them losing in the ad business and the search business. So why are you even attacking them?
You're going to compete however you can compete. And if one of those ways is like a punch to the solar plexus while they're being held up by regulatory bodies or courts or whatever, I mean, of course you're going to do that.
You know what? The lobbying business is a dirty business, and they all tell on each other all the time, right?
I would have liked for tech giants to stand up for one another in the face of evil Rupert Murdoch, because that's really what's going on. It's just Rupert Murdoch.
Well, okay, but this goes beyond Rupert.
Facebook.
Rupert Murdoch, right? I mean, this is.
Not in Australia.
He happens to be
not in Australia.
Okay, but it's not just Australia. Like this.
And by the way, Rupert has
this testimony was not in Australia.
No, right? But
this is the United States.
That's why he should not have taken sides against Google in the face of Murdoch. You know, Murdoch has now made a side deal with Facebook. Most of the money from Google and Facebook isn't going to journalistic enterprises like Twit or the local newspaper in Petaluma. It's going to the Sun and the Daily Mail and the Wall Street Journal. To do with
journalism.
It's not about saving journalism. It's Rupert Murdoch hijacked. Okay.
Let me give you the one-word explanation of what just happened. Scroogled.
Yeah, scroogled.
Yeah.
Literally, Kent Walker mentioned scroogled in his blog post.
Yeah, they're still hurting over that.
They're still burned by scroogled. That is awesome. It's awesome.
It's all a game. It's just Microsoft. Anytime they see a way to try to get an inch with search and advertising, they will take it. They don't care how.
And if they can't get an inch, then they'll take an inch away from Google. However they can do that.
Yes.
You know, same thing, right? I mean,
I don't blame either side. I'm like, you're both doing what you need to do, but don't pretend you're taking the moral high road.
They have a common enemy, though. They really do, because this is bad for tech in general. And so I think that I would have liked to have seen these guys stand together. Sure. And this is going to happen because, Microsoft is looking over and saying, yeah, watch the FTC. They're going after Google and Facebook. Go get them, guys. It's all of yous. And no one's
going to come for them, too.
That's right. So it's really, I think, a mistake to take sides at this point when you have real enemies that are attacking all of big tech. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. I don't know.
I
feel
delight
like
in
it's
the
all-
response from Google.
Of course.
It's
Anytime you
just-
can get.
It's team sport
I
for you,
know.
Paul. I understand.
No, I
It's
read
like when
I read
Amazon
it a
went
few
after Microsoft.
times. I was like, I know.
Oh, it's so good.
Should I read
was.
it?
I'm
'Cause
like,
it's pretty.
wait,
I have it
what?
somewhere. I should pull
Some
it
of,
up.
I can read a part of it if you want.
No, it was. It felt unhinged. It felt like somebody.
It is unhinged. When you
like,
say
just
it's no coincidence that Microsoft's newfound interest in attacking us comes on the heels of the SolarWinds attack. No, it literally is. What are you talking about? He's like, Microsoft was warned about the vulnerabilities in the system. I just remind you, the topic is journalism. Knew they were being exploited and are now doing damage control while their customers scramble to pick up the pieces of what has been dubbed, this is all caps, the great email robbery.
Well,
I've never heard anyone.
They
use that
also
term. Okay.
Google also said, or Kent also said, called it naked corporate opportunism.
Yeah,
Those are the
that's
big,
what companies do.
Those are the big three.
What do you? That's not. It's not a person you're talking about
They are
here.
reverting, says Kent Walker, to their familiar playbook of attacking rivals and lobbying for regulations that benefit their own interests.
Yes. Who doesn't do
that's
that?
What companies do, right? I'm like,
Who
that's what
doesn't
companies
do that?
And by the way, Google does that, of course. Yeah.
Even
They all do
we
it.
as people do that. Apply that statement to a human being.
know.
But
you're just doing what's best for you. How dare you?
But I agree with this last sentence. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Walker writes, they are now making self-serving, he's talking about Microsoft. They're making self-serving
course.
claims and are even willing to break the way the open web works in an effort to undercut a rival. And that's my problem, which is stop fighting amongst yourselves because this is a
Brad
link
Smith
text.
actually addresses that aspect of it too, by the way. But yeah, okay.
All right. What does he say?
I don't remember. I was too excited. But if you wait, I'll just go look it up. It's
I mean, it looked to me like he was encouraging. He's even said, yeah, that's Section 230. You don't need that either. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. He goes on to think. So, by the way, one of the things that Brad Smith points out, which is absolutely true, but again, things change. When Google began with their search engine, the idea that Larry Page had at the time was, you're going to get off of our site as quickly as possible. We're going to get you to your information so fast you won't even know we exist, right? Which sounds not like a business, right? Of course, over time, as the business becomes a business, people are like, well, actually, don't we want to keep them on the site, guys? And that's where they get into trouble. Google, that's why they got into trouble in Australia. They're basically just stealing content,
Right.
So, okay, I'm trying to find your quote here, or the quote you asked about, because it
That's
is.
all right. We can move on. I mean, I think we've all made
Break
our
the
point here.
old news internet was the term.
we all think it's nuts.
We've all made our point.
But he does mention.
I hope he
mention
does.
the notion.
I hope
no,
he
does. He does.
I mean, look, both these companies are vile in different ways, but
Yes.
none more vile than Rupert Murdoch. And I think the proposal from any. By the way, Canada wants to do it now. Europe's about to do it, and I wouldn't be
France,
surprised.
Germany, EU will do it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the U.S. do it. What is effectively is a link text. It's a way to get money out of big tech on a pretext.
Yeah.
And
Microsoft's
next.
That's why. That's why he was testifying, right? Literally, House subcommittee.
Yeah, but I was hoping his testify would be to defend big tech, not. Hey, by the way.
Well, so this is. I'll just read. I'll kind of paraphrase what he says.
Go get him.
Brad Smith says, we're sensitive to the argument that we must avoid enacting a law that would break the internet, end quotes. We would not have endorsed, here's maybe the thing. We would have not endorsed the Australian law if we believed there was any real merit to Google's argument that the country's legislation would have done that. As we studied the legislation closely, we concluded there was no foundation for the fear that people would have to pay per link to use the internet. This was confirmed explicitly when the final law affirmed explicitly that blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I'm just...
It's a link text. Look, all these countries see these very wealthy big tech companies doing so well, especially during a pandemic, say, well, I would like some of that. And
I mean, by the way, the notion that you pay per link, I'm sure, is something that Bill Gates invented in the 1990s and how he saw the internet going.
He would have liked it.
There's no doubt that Gates saw. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, we've all learned a little bit. Anyway.
For sure.
Let's talk about Microsoft 365.
Oh, God. So, Actually, I'm curious. I have a question for Mary Jo about this. So,
Yep.
the Skype desktop client was updated this past week, or recently anyway, and they added noise cancellation technology that comes from Teams, right? The idea being that you've got stuff like a dog barking like I had earlier, or trucks, or like a construction like Mary Jo has, or whatever it is. And, you want to block that stuff out in a call. 1 year ago this month, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 1 year ago this month, Microsoft had an event for Microsoft 365 for consumers, remember? Use of Medi and they talked about a bunch of new features, some of which may not even still have happened. I don't know, but people were wondering when's this stuff going to happen, blah, blah, blah. If you had talked, if we would have talked a year ago about this notion that Skype is going away to be replaced by some consumer version of Teams, and they added consumer version features to Teams first on mobile, and account aggregation. I think is that on desktop yet? I don't remember, but it's coming. Do you, Mary Jo? Do you think?
Yes.
Has anything changed here? I mean,
no.
Skype.
So we were the ones who said we thought Skype would go away and be replaced by Teams Consumer. But every time we asked Microsoft about that, they said no. They said, we think there's a unique value proposition for Skype that is different from Teams. And that's just doing a very simple, quick video chat. It's not turning it into an entire platform like Teams. So they have never officially said Skype would go away. They've never said that.
I mean, technically speaking, aside from the fact that the Skype app is, in Windows 10, so it's like a feature of Windows.
Yeah.
There is a Meet Now button in the taskbar, which, by the way, hilariously, you'll enjoy this with our settings discussion, is not on every PC. But
no,
let's not go there. It's not, but whatever. I can only handle so much of this kind of thing. But anyway, but now it's literally an integrated feature of the operating system as well, where with one click, you can start a meeting, or whatever you want to call it, a call.
And you want to hear something
crazy?
So it's not on any of my PCs except that new Lenovo ThinkPad X1. That's the first time I've seen the Meet Now button.
So I have no. So same thing. I have a mix of PCs that I use all the time. I see it on some, not on others. It has nothing to do with what version of Windows you're on. I don't know why it appears sometimes and not others, but
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think right now, Teams Consumer is still going forward. I think Skype is still hanging around. And I forget who told us this, but Skype and Teams are built on the exact same backbone, right?
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
For now, I think all of them go forward. Just like how they have so many to-do products at Microsoft, why not have so many different ways to have an online meeting?
Well, we sort of just asked for this with Windows. We had a conversation early in the show where why couldn't they have a home version that was completely different from the business version? Well, why can't Microsoft do that with Skype and Teams?
I know, right?
Okay. All right.
So, yeah.
We're just going to move to Zoom and forget the whole dang thing.
Yep. That's fine.
I fear, actually, I feel like there's a little fire been lit under us to find a replacement for Skype, because I fear that Skype is not going to be around much longer.
Do you think specifically like the broadcasting type features are going to be a problem?
Right.
Or?
Boy, so many people use it.
Yeah.
I know.
I
would be surprised. Just because
they'll keep it around.
They're going to give you a year's heads up at least, right?
Yeah.
And they haven't so far.
So
that's
we have
true.
at least a
they
year.
wouldn't. They wouldn't just do this suddenly.
Right.
That's
they
for
wouldn't.
sure.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah, but it's unfortunately it's a moving target. I mean, it's just as you just said, Skype updates all the time, and sometimes it breaks what we do. And
yeah.
I'd love to see them do. In fact, they did, didn't they? A broadcast product, Skype TX, but
that still exists, right? As a separate product.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Go to Fry's Electronics. They probably have it over.
Oh yeah, they'll have. I should go get those Skype TX machines at Fry's.
I think it still exists.
Broadcasters, yeah.
You just walk in the front door and you're like, I'm looking for Skype TX, and they're like, aisle 17 is on the left.
Yeah.
No, it still exists. There it is.
Next to the Teddy Ruxpin.
I got the sense, though, it was not that they had kind of given up on it.
Well, I feel like they've pushed forward with the, call it similar features in Teams.
Right.
And that thing has just been left sitting there.
Right. Yeah, it's that's maybe kind of what's gone on.
Yeah.
I'm not the person who's been testing it, but I've seemed to, anyway, I seem to remember that it's not a lot of it happening there. We tried Skype TX for a while with some new tech hardware. We had a particular bug that didn't work with our system. I think Zoom, Mary Jo's on Zoom today, and I think Zoom
looks pretty good. Yeah, I like Zoom. I use Zoom a lot.
Alex Lindsay, who is, as close as you can get to a guru of this kind of thing, strongly recommends Zoom. He says there's nothing comes close. You'll be getting a Zoom link next week, Paul.
I told you how I feel about change, Leo. Yeah, that's
PowerPoint presenter coach.
Yeah, so God, when did Microsoft bought PowerPoint? Right, like 30 years ago or something. It's a long time ago. Yeah. It's interesting to me that in the past few years they finally caught on to the fact that it's complicated and most people can't make good presentations. So they've added all these features. AI, they'll look at all the elements in your thing, and you can do auto themes and all that stuff. It's neat. So Presenter Coach is a feature that's falls into that kind of category. It
was from Forethought. They bought it from Forethought.
What was the year? Did you see a year?
$14 million in 1987. This is Microsoft's first significant acquisition.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they would have had by that point Word or Excel and Word. And so this is the third big piece in that puzzle, right? And that became Office.
PowerPoint was originally Mac only. Wow. Wow.
Well, here's the interesting thing. PowerPoint now runs on the web. It runs on Windows and the Mac, and it runs on iOS and Android.
And it's completely dominant in that category. Yeah. There's nothing even close.
Still, it's crazy. But I think there's a high bar to entry for a lot of people. And Mary Jo and I have struggled with this when we've done our, little speaking things. It's like PowerPoint's hard,
It's very
well, and it's not just that. It's also, and I think there's PowerPoint fatigue. I think it's also, there's a certain sameness to PowerPoint presentations, and as soon as you see that first slide, you go,
And one of the things that's really terrible about presentations, if you get the wrong person, is you get those guys who just read it.
They're reading. Now, as you can see on slide
they read what you're looking at. It's like, I could read this myself. Why are you talking?
Point one, right here. Yeah.
So Presenter Coach helps with that kind of problem, right? It provides you feedback with your presentation style. And it's available now on all the platforms on which PowerPoint runs, which is neat. And they're also introducing 3 new, they call them critiques. This is like the PowerPoint version of an Apple Watch. Complexity. What's the term for those things? What's the complexity? No, not complexity. Damn it, I forgot the word. Anyway, but they have 3 new ones here. Complications, thank you.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was a weird word, but I know it's a clock word. They have 3 new critiques, complications, available in preview only in the web. They usually do the web first when they're testing new stuff. So body language, repetitive language, and pronunciation.
Oh. Evil John in the chat room is telling me that reading your slide that way is called draining the slide. Do not drain your slides.
I'm not very good at public speaking, but I have on many occasions stood there. Why am I so blurry?
Paul, have you been drinking? Oh, good. Okay.
I'm like, you guys have seen that too, right? So
there's 2 of you.
If not, there's something really wrong with my left eye. I've kind of stood there on stage, and you look up at the screen, and you look out at the crowd, and you're like, I assume most of you can read.
Yeah.
I stopped actually using slides when I did my talks because people were pay attention to that instead of what you're saying.
Same here.
Plus, there's the tendency to kind of stick to the slide. And
there is,
of course.
Right.
Have you guys ever used Prezi? Do you know about Prezi?
I've heard of it. I've never used it.
It's cuckoo crazy. The present, you move into the presentation and out, and it's wild.
Oh, boy.
But it definitely
is it
not
like
PowerPoint.
Microsoft Mesh? Are there fish?
It's trying to get away from the paradigm. PowerPoint came out in an era where it was slides.
Yep.
It was actual 35 millimeter
yes,
slides.
yes. Yep.
And so it's trying to get away from that
Slides in a
paradigm.
carousel, just so people
Right.
understand. Literally projected with light
And now,
up onto a screen.
as you'll see in the next slide. So
Gates used to have his dad move the slide projector.
Did he really?
Spoke at,
That's cute.
yeah.
That's cute. So Prezi, you can see an overview, but then you can zoom into it. You can move around.
Okay.
It's really
so it's like
wild.
it's almost like a visualization thing.
Yes, it's much more video. It's getting away from all of that. But I used to use it. When I was doing those geek cruises, I would use Prezi, but then it got really expensive. It's like $60 a month. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's for people who really,
Do that.
And there's another side effect which I don't like. It can make you a little seasick because you're really zooming in and out and stuff like that.
Oh, man.
I guess there's a $15 a month tier. I'm looking at it. Oh, and for personal use, $5.
I've never even heard of this, but I'm not.
You don't.
A lot of kids use it now in school.
Use in school a lot.
become
That's
a-
exactly right. Yeah. Although PowerPoint is almost considered like a skill that you need to learn in high school now. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the school. This was back when my daughter we were still in Dedham, but we were describing or showing our daughter the presentation my wife and I had made for my son when he was going to college, because we were trying to convince him to pick the
That's
school
right.
he
I
eventually
remember
went to.
that. Yes.
And she said,
so funny.
we kept saying PowerPoint, and finally Kelly said, "What's PowerPoint?" We're like, "What are you talking about?"
Was she using
it's like
Keynote? What was she using?
That's what she said. No, she said, "Oh, no, that's what she said. It's like a dagger to my heart." You appreciate what she said. She goes, "Oh, it's like Google Sheets."
Oh, ow!
And I'm like, "Yes, Kelly, it's like Google Sheets." It's like,
Yeah.
oh boy, it only predates it by what did we just date it as?
Oh my
25
God,
years.
87. Microsoft's first version was 89, so it's 31 years.
Yeah,
Yikes!
yep. Crazy.
Let's just because I don't want to do without a little Xbox news, if you will.
Yeah, I'll blow through this. I know we're in hour 5 now, or whatever this is.
No, it's good show. Good
So-
show today. Are you kidding?
The long-awaited Xbox wireless headset is now available, $99.99, which is an excellent price for this thing. I don't have one. I don't think I'm going to get one. Brad's getting one. I'll let him I don't like big headsets, but this one looks really, really good. And it's pretty much what Xbox users have been asking for, and has a handy feature where you can have it connected to 2 devices at the same time. So you could be playing a video game on your console, and you could pretend to be on a Teams call on your PC or on your mobile device. So that's kind of fun. What else is new? So Xbox Game Pass, we know at the beginning of the month, and then again in the middle of the month, they announce whatever new titles are coming to the platform. This is, well, I should say across platforms, right? So cloud, console, and PC. Cloud meaning what used to be called xCloud, game streaming. Right now it's Android only, but soon will of course be on the web and Windows and iOS and all that kind of stuff. None of these games stick out for me personally, but I have, we all have the kind of games we like, but there are, 12 or 15 of them or whatever. So that's always good news. And related to something I will talk about a little bit later in the tips and picks section, in the wake of Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda, they're starting to do a lot with that stuff.
This has
And one
been
of the things-
exciting. This has been really
this is
exciting.
really cool.
Yeah.
So this week they announced 5 Bethesda titles: Dishonored Definitive Edition, The Elder Scrolls V, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Prey are all getting FPS boosts. Right. So this is a feature of the new consoles where you take an existing game and you can actually boost the frame rate, typically from about 30 frames per second up to typically 60 frames per second. This one's only, well, not only interesting, but there's an interesting little note to this, because 2 of those games, the 2 Fallout games, actually require a resolution reduction in order to achieve 60 frames per second. So in those cases, Microsoft is not enabling FPS boost by default, but you'll still see the little it's a little icon if it's available, and you can click on it and it will tell you what's going on. And they'll give you the option to turn it on if you want to do that. So that's the first time I'd heard of that. I don't think they ever mentioned that might happen, but I guess that is happening with a couple of the games.
Nice. Steel Dawn, Prey, Fallout 4, and Dishonored.
Dishonored.
Dishonored. It's cool whip. Cool whip. Cool whip. Back of the book coming up next. We go to the back of the book starring the tip of the week by Paul Thurrott.
Yeah, so I think it was last month, Microsoft announced, this is really confusing because they don't have a name for this. So if you have Microsoft Edge and you're using it across mobile and PC or Mac and whatever you're using it on, whatever, the idea is it's supposed to sync your passwords for websites and other information between those clients. In my experience, that doesn't actually always work, right? So I use Mobile Edge on my phone, which is an Android phone. I use it on my iPad. And multiple times I go to some website. This always happens with a local newspaper website. It asks me to log in. I click on the thing. You hit the Touch ID button to do your passwords, and then it doesn't show up. And of course, it doesn't show up because they're supposed to sync through Edge, but it didn't sync through Edge. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so this was kind of grating on me. But then Microsoft announced they were going to start.
Depending on it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's reasonable, So through the Microsoft Authenticator app, which I also use, right, which is a 2FA app, not just for Microsoft, but for any service that supports that, they are adding password management and then autofill capabilities on mobile. That's interesting, right? And so the idea there is that you can take over password autofill on a mobile device and not use Google's on Android or not use Apple's, but I think it's called like iCloud Keychain or something on iOS or on iPad either, and use Microsoft instead. And what that will do is sync the passwords you already have in Microsoft Edge, which I had acquired previously from Chrome, right, when I switched from Chrome, and it pushed them out to everywhere. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is the missing piece of the puzzle. Maybe this is what I need. So I've been testing this for a few weeks now, and then I finally wrote it up as a tip. It works really well. And it's really, I got to say, it's really nice on an iPad or whatever. You go to the password field and you get the Microsoft Authenticator thing pops up, and it works great. So I have an article on the site about how to do it. It's not rocket science or anything like that. I will say for those people who are still kind of burned by LastPass and the way they changed their free tier, if you're looking for like a really complete password solution, it's not quite there. It doesn't have things like automatic complex password generation capabilities, for example, and a bunch of everyone who has a special need in this regard, like maybe you want to be able to share passwords with your family or whatever it is. Those things aren't there yet. There's no web interface for your passwords where you go to a single place and you can manage them there. You can't arbitrarily add a new password combo in any way, right? So there are still some things that are missing, but I think for most people, this thing works. If you trust Microsoft and you want to use Microsoft and not Google for password management, you could even use it with Google Chrome because they have a plugin for that. So that stuff's all available. It's going to improve a lot, I think, this year as far as adding those other features. So we'll see how that goes. But if you have basic password needs, like I feel like I do, it's already there. It works good. And then the app pick of the week is based on two big announcements that happened this week with Xbox Game Pass, which is that 20 Bethesda titles landed on Xbox Game Pass this past week. 20, right? Really pushing the limit or pushing up the total number of games you can access on Game Pass. And then EA Play for PC is arriving tomorrow. So if you have an Xbox Game Pass PC or Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription, you can link your Xbox account to your EA Play account, to a new or existing EA Play account, and then you get free access to all the EA Play stuff on the PC. Awesome. So Xbox Game Pass has 3 different tiers. There's a console version, a PC version, and Ultimate, which is both. And then Ultimate also gives you the xCloud stuff. That's the game streaming stuff. It's only on Android right now, but that's going to change. And so really Xbox Game Pass spans, when you think about it, it's we'll call it console, PC, and cloud, right? And cloud someday will be web, Windows, Android, iOS, whatever. It's incredible. And basic subscriptions are $9.99 a month. That's for console or PC, and then Ultimate is $14.99. And I don't know. The more I think about the future, the more I look. I feel like this is where I'm going to land. Like this will be the way I game soon and going forward, I bet.
With a Game Pass.
Yeah.
You're not doing it already?
I have it. I'm still kind of stuck on the console.
Buying games, yeah.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, like, the more games, like all the Bethesda games, right? I literally just installed Doom 3, right? Which has to be, how old is Doom 3? 20 years old, maybe?
Right.
Has to be. But it looks awesome. Like, it still looks great. I just installed it on my Xbox Series X. Amazing. And all those great the new Doom games are on there. Actually, I think all the Doom games basically are on there. Doom 1 and 2 and 3 and Doom, whatever the other one was called, Doom Eternal and Doom, whatever they are. I don't know. It's amazing. All the Wolfenstein games are there. On EA gives you all the sports games. It's the selection is crazy. It's getting really, really good.
Enterprise pick of the week, Ms. Mary Jo Foley.
Yes, my enterprise pick is kind of more of a small and mid-sized business pick this week, but Microsoft has released a one-click mitigation tool for the Exchange hack. Before they had published a bunch of scripts, and there were a whole other set of things they were recommending customers to do, and then they realized we need something really easy for customers. And so they have put up on GitHub something called the Exchange On-Premises Mitigation Tool, EOMT. And the way you can find that is go on GitHub and look for CSS-Exchange. And this is literally a one-click tool that will help. First, it does a Microsoft Safety scan, and then it basically sets you up for the patches all in one click. So it's free. It's on GitHub. If you still are a company or a small business that hasn't patched for the Exchange hack, this might be a good way to get going on that. And you should be definitely doing this because this is a very bad remote code execution issue with Exchange dating back a week or two now.
Cool. But that's not all.
That's not all.
There's more. Enterprise pick number. Duh.
So Microsoft today announced that they are going to be expanding what they call Azure availability zones in a major way through this calendar year. Azure availability zones are basically a resiliency kind of function. So if you're a company and you want to make sure your data is backed up independently in an Azure region, you would deploy Azure availability zones. The problem up till now has been there haven't been all that many of these. Amazon has a lot of availability zones. I think every one of their regions has 2 availability zones. And Microsoft, that has not been the case. They've had a little over a dozen out of their 60 plus regions with availability zones. And they've gotten dinged on this in the past from various analysts saying, come on, guys, like you want to be a major cloud vendor, you have to have these availability zones. So they have now made the commitment. They're going to be deploying these in every region they currently operate in calendar 2021. And any new regions they add, they're going to already make an upfront commitment that they will have availability zones. So yeah, this is a big deal. It wouldn't have prevented this week's Azure authentication problem, but if you're a customer and you want to make sure your data is secured, backed up in a whole independent, basically independent data center with its own power, its own cooling, et cetera, you want to look for something with an availability zone. So good news, they're coming.
No relation to opportunity zones, I take it.
Yeah.
Yes. Finally, it is St. Patrick's Day.
It is.
And we should celebrate.
We should.
Yes.
So I found, there are so many good stouts these days from craft breweries that you could make your special beer for St. Patrick's Day. But Burley Oak Brewing in Berlin, Maryland has one called the Shamrock Shake Stout. It's not green, but it's aged on some things that are green. It's aged on Andes mints. You know those little thin mints, Andes mints, that give it kind of a chocolatey, chocolatey, minty flavor, almost like a Girl Scout cookie, thin mint. And also
Paul is unimpressed.
Spirulina, which is
wait a minute, spirulina is in this?
Very nutritious. I don't know
what is spirulina.
Algae.
How that affects the taste.
It's
of
algae,
this, but based on Untapped check-ins, it doesn't sound like it affects it a lot.
Is it a green?
Maybe it gives
Yeah,
it a slightly green tinge.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
it's green.
It sounds though. I almost got to try this weekend, and then at the last minute they ran out of it. But
It's spirulina is considered a superfood.
it sounds really good. It's an imperial stout, and everybody who describes it says it tastes a little bit minty and a little chocolatey. 10.5% though, so be careful if you drink some of these.
When they say
stouts.
conditioned,
You might dance like a leprechaun.
when they say conditioned on Andy's mint,
Yes.
what does that even mean?
So when beer is conditioned on something, they let it ferment sitting on stuff basically, and it absorbs the flavor of it.
Is the stuff in it, or is it like sitting below
It's
it?
like
And
they make the beer and they pour it on top and let it ferment. Is my understanding.
so it is. So there's actually Andy's mints in here.
Like
Yeah, it must take.
I don't know.
Yeah, it must take some of it in.
It takes like the flavor of it in, but I would assume you wouldn't like get any of it. Like
Well, all the
you get
sugar's
infused
fermented
flavor
out,
of it, for
right?
sure.
So it's just
Yeah.
Hey,
A lot of times beers are like aged on wood chips, or they're aged on fruit. Like you hear different things,
Right.
but
This one, like the bourbon wood chip thing or barrel or whatever.
But this one, Andy's mints and green spirulina together.
not a combination I would have imagined in the first
Garnished with a shamrock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shamrock shake.
People who are commenting on it are like, yeah, it's good. If you like Andy's mints and you like that minty, a little bit minty flavor.
If you want something that's slightly healthier than a McDonald's shamrock shake.
Yeah, exactly.
But not quite as green, so
Probably not that green.
Yeah. That is Windows Weekly. What a show this week. We covered the waterfront.
We did.
Thank you, you guys. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Paul Thurrott's at thurrott.com. That's his blog, THURRO good.com. And his book, the Windows 10 Field Guide, is at leanpub.com. Mary Jo Foley's ZDNet blog has its very own URL, allaboutmicrosoft.com. And together, they make the dynamic duo of Windows coverage, Microsoft coverage. Thanks also to our special guests. It was great to have Ryan Shrout and Josh Newman on from Intel. Mm-hmm. That was fantastic. We do Windows Weekly. If you don't want to miss an episode, it's every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We have leapt forward into the future, more faster than other countries. So if you are not for once, that's why I always give the UTC time, which I think is 1800 UTC. You figured out based on your time zone. We are UTC -7 now. 1800 UTC. You don't have to figure that out. But if you want to watch live, twit.tv/live has live audio and video streams. Watching live, chat live. Fabulous chat room. They're all people watching live at the same time at irc.twit.tv. On-demand versions of the show, we can download any episode out of all of them from our website, twit.tv/WW. You can also, go to YouTube. There's a YouTube channel devoted to Windows Weekly. And then, of course, probably the easiest thing to do is get a podcast client, find Windows Weekly, subscribe. There's audio or video, and you can subscribe to the version you want. And that way you get it the minute it's available of a Wednesday afternoon. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Good show. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
On Windows Weekly.
You know what's fun? Android. You know what's even more fun, though? All About Android. That's my show, Jason Howell, along with my co-hosts Ron Richards, Florence Ion, and we welcome guests on each and every week from throughout the Android ecosystem, developers, Googlers, journalists, people who are all geeked out about the Android operating system. We tell you everything you need to know. Twit.tv/AAA every Tuesday. We'll see you there.